Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto was imprisoned in high school DxD. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by AizenTheGoat and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Achimitsu Academy, a school that since it's been open has been an all-girl institution. However, this year the chairman of the school decided to allow males to enroll. The catch, however, was that only 6 would be allowed to enter. Currently we find Naruto Namek is walking toward the academy. Naruto is 5'10" feet tall, has short spiky blonde hair with blue eyes. He is currently wearing the boys' uniform, which consists of a dark blue blazer over a plain white button-down long sleeve, black pants and black shoes. The tie is optional, so he decided not to wear one. One hand in his pocket while the other has his bag slung over his shoulder, he walks towards the school which is just coming in sight. If I'm correct, this is the school Maiko goes to. He thinks to himself as he walks down the street. I'm already a week late due to some issue with the paperwork. I wonder who I'm going to have to room with. I know they let 5 others from the same school enter as well, so they probably already got acquainted. Damn, it's gonna be hard being the new kid. Once he finally reaches the school, he heads to the chairman's office as instructed to receive his schedule and to properly introduce himself. He finds the correct room and knocks twice until he hears the man on the other side usher him in. The room is pretty nice if a bit dark. It's a big room with a desk right across from the door he just entered. Behind the desk is a window with a view of the school. In front of the chairman are seats most likely for anyone he instructs to come by. The chairman himself is an older man with somewhat gray hair. He wears a black suit with a white long sleeve undershirt with a light blue tie. Naruto stands there for a minute while the man is doing something on his computer, looking pretty focused. Must be something important for him to be that focused. Naruto thinks. That's before he notices the reflection of the computer screen on the window behind him. Is he watching porn? He thinks flabbergasted, though on the outside he doesn't show it. A few moments later the man looks up and goes through a few papers before finally speaking. I see you're wearing the boys' uniform, which must mean that your Namek is Naruto, correct? Yes sir, a pleasure to meet you. He replies, extending his hand out. The chairman shakes it before speaking again. Here's your schedule, he says, handing Naruto the papers. For the duration of your second year, these will be the classes you will be attending. Naruto looks over the classes and is content with what he has. He only hopes he can at least have one of the other dudes in the class with him, so he won't be the only guy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's no problem at all, I hope you enjoy learning here. He says. Naruto raised an eyebrow at that. Does he always end his sentences like that? I'll be going now. Naruto left the room and proceeded to his first class. Along the way he noticed he was getting a lot of looks from the female students. Not looks of lust or anything like that, more like looks of curiosity. They're probably still getting used to seeing a guy around here since it's been an all-girls school up until now. He thinks. Most of the day was quite uneventful. As he expected, almost no one talked to him, either because he's the new kid or because maybe they just didn't care to speak to him. It was in his 5th period while the sensei was taking roll that he heard a guy's name being called. The desk to his right was empty. Strange, it's only been a week. Is this guy ditching class already? Looking over to his left he sees a female classmate and decides he'll ask her about the dude and why he hasn't seen any of the other males in the school yet. Excuse me? He whispers as to not get caught by the teacher. Do you know where all the guys are? I just got here today and haven't seen any of them around at all. Her face went from a look of disgust when he talked to her, which he noticed, to understanding when he mentioned he had just gotten here. The boys were sent to prison last week. She says, clearly happy. He thanked her for the information and turned back to his seat shocked. They got sent to prison. What the hell did they do? Fuck, now I'm the only guy here and to top it off I have no friends. He couldn't focus for the rest of the class. He just kept wondering what these guys could have done to get sent to prison after only a week of school. Did they attack a teacher? Did they lose control of their beastly urges and sexually harass one of the girls? But these thoughts still in mind, he headed to his final class of the day. In his final class of the day he's not surprised to once again be the only guy considering what he just learned. He looks at everyone in the room quickly, but one person catches his attention. Towards the back of the room he notices a gray-haired girl whose hair is in a bun with 2 strands hanging on the side of her face, giving her a sort of sexy librarian look. She has glasses and what really catches his eye is her uniform. Her brown jacket is only buttoned from the bottom half, almost completely exposing her breasts. The same with her undershirt. Around her neck she has a red bolo tie. She has thigh-high black socks with some knee-high black heeled boots. She's sitting with one leg crossed over the other, giving him a good view of her legs. With the willpower of the gods he's able to look away and sit 2 desks to her left. While he checked her out he couldn't help but think he knew her. Alright class, you might now be aware, but I'll say it anyways. The final boy that is transferring to our school is in our class. Young man, would you please come up to the front and introduce yourself? She asked him, though it was really a command. Heading to the front, he writes his name on the board and addresses the class. My name is Naruto. I'm 17 years old, I like ramen and cars, and I dislike a lot of things, so I'll spare you the details. Please treat me well. He finishes and bows a little before heading back to his seat. Sometime halfway through the class, a small folded square landed on his desk from his right. He looks over at the girl to the right of him and sees her point to the girl from earlier. She's writing notes, not even making some form of acknowledgement that she had indeed sent him the note. Checking to make sure the teacher isn't looking, he carefully unfolds the note and reads what it says. Meet me by the big tree at the end of the track 10 minutes after class ends. Maiko? That's Maiko? He thinks to himself. She looked nothing like the shy little girl he knew when they were kids. Puberty was definitely kind to her, he thinks, now excited that he had his old friend in the class. He couldn't help but notice she now had a strong aura radiation off of her. After what felt like eternity, class finally ended and Naruto went to his dorm room, which he now found out he had to himself since the other 5 all roomed together. Oh well, it worked out better for him anyway. He dropped his bag off but didn't have enough time to change, so he just removed his blazer and went with his white button up. He got to the tree and saw that she was already there leaning up against the tree. She heard the sound of steps heading toward her and she pushed herself off and they started at one another, neither knowing how to start the conversation. Eventually Naruto broke the silence. It's been a while, Maiko. He says, smiling at her. It has. It's been about 3 years you've been gone, Naruto. She says evenly. He felt a bit bad that he had to leave her after halfway through middle school. His father's work required them to move. I missed you, you know. Even though we texted back and forth, it wasn't exactly the same. She smiled at him and replied, I missed you too. Middle school was tough for a while, but eventually it got better. She said as they sat down. I didn't recognize you when I first walked into the classroom. He admitted. She smirks at him. Are you sure? Because it looked to me like you took your time looking at me. He looks away and can feel his face getting hotter. He had been caught. I'll admit I did look at you for a bit longer than anyone else, but it's kind of hard not to, you're gorgeous. He complimented her. She smiled at that. Most of the boys that look at her ogle her and don't even pretend to be discreet. This has led her to hate most men and think of them as nothing but pigs. Just like those she has to look over in the prison. You're not so bad yourself. You've grown and you've got a nice body now. You're no longer the skinny kid you used to be. The two spend an hour talking about what had been happening in their lives after he had moved away and reminiscing about when they were kids. As the two were talking, they both felt drawn to each other. The 3 years of not seeing each other obviously had them realize they both had some sort of feeling for each other. Even after just meeting again, they just felt right together. Slowly they found themselves moving their faces closer together. Their lips just a hair away from each other. Beep beep beep. They both snapped out of their little trance and Maiko picked up her phone. She had gotten a text message. Naruto noticed as she read over it, her eyes seemed to narrow and her jaw clamp up. I'm sorry, but I'm needed by the USC. She said before she got an idea. Would you like to join me? It's just a quick errand I have to do. She asks while standing up. Yeah, sure, let's go. He says. Inside his mind, however, he was both upset and pleased. Upset because they had been so damn close to kissing and were interrupted. Pleased because if she was willing to kiss him, that meant she didn't have a boyfriend. That thought bothered him. He followed Maiko to a strange-looking building a bit away from the school. It had plants growing on it and are those iron bars in the window. She opened the door and headed inside. They walked down a dark corridor and Naruto couldn't help but notice something as his eye adjusted for the dark. Every room he saw on either side of the wall looked like a jail cell. Suddenly his eyes widened. The iron bars on the windows, the dark corridor, rooms that look suspiciously like jail cells. This was a prison. He gets a flashback to his talk with the girl in his 5th period class. The boys were sent to prison last week. So this is what she was talking about. The school actually had a built-in prison. Is this even legal? He thought to himself, a little freaked out by the concept. He noticed that one of the cells towards the end was emitting light, which meant the guys had to be in there. Sure enough, there they were, in black and white striped prison clothes, eating who knows what. They walked in and everyone turned their eyes towards them. He noticed that all 5 guys were there. One of them had short dark blue hair and is wearing black shoes, along with matching black and white horizontal striped shirt and pants. He is average height and is also thin. This boy is Kayashi Fujino. Next to him is a boy with shoulder-length black hair, glasses, and is wearing the exact same thing as Kayashi. He is tall and thin. This is Takedo Morikuzu aka Gakudo. Next to him is a blonde guy with his hair gelled back with a strand hanging down. He's about the same height as Kayashi and has lighter skin than the others. Like the guys next to him, he's also wearing the standard prison clothing, only he prefers to wear his collar open. This is Shingo Wakamoto. Next to him is the biggest one of them all. He's tall, a bit on the heavy side with huge earlobes and a small face. He has short hair and like the others before him has the prison uniform on. This is Ryoji Anzu aka Andre. Finally, the last of the guys is an average height boy. He's thinner than the rest of them. His head is covered by a hood which Naruto can't find out how he got considering that those don't seem to be sweaters. The thing that makes this boy different is that he seems to be sick since he keeps coughing up blood, yet nobody seems to do anything about it. This is Joji Nezu aka Joe. There is 2 other girls occupying the cell as well. The first is a girl with long black hair. She's of average height with a medium-sized chest. She wears the girl's uniform the way it's supposed to, clean and proper. Brown blazer buttoned at the middle. Her white long-sleeve undershirt is buttoned all the way up with her red bolo tie also in order. She wears the brown skirt with black pantyhose underneath and wears dark brown shoes. This is Mara Kurihara, eldest daughter of the chairman. Besides her is another girl. This one has short blonde hair and a bob cut and also has a medium-sized chest. She wears the girl's uniform in the same fashion as Mary, only she uses leggings underneath her skirt to cover down to her knees and doesn't wear socks with her shoes. This is Hanami Dorikawa. Thank you for joining us, Vice President, says Mary. It was no trouble at all, President, says Maiko bowing. Naruto raised an eye at her behavior but said nothing. Mary looked over and noticed him. It seems the last transfer student has finally joined us. I'm Mary Kurihara, President of the Underground Student Council. She introduces herself to him. And this is Hanami Dorikawa, Secretary of the USC. You're already familiar with the Vice President, so I won't introduce you to her. Pleased to meet you, he says before looking over at the boys. So if you don't mind me asking, why are they here? Mary pulls out a book from her jacket and hands it to him. This is the official Underground Student Council guidebook. Is it official or is it underground? Naruto asks, confused. That's exactly what I asked, said Kayashi. Silence, yelled Maiko before she kicked Kayashi in the face. Naruto looked and saw the big one looking at her with a crazy look on his face. The boy pounced. Please, Vice President, punish me too, let me lick your boots, he yelled as he dived at her. Before he could reach her, he had a foot on the side of his head, sending him away. Looking up, he saw Naruto looking down at him. Nobody is going to lick any part of Maiko, he says with narrowed eyes. The boys looked at Naruto shocked for 2 reasons. 1, he just kicked Andre like it was nothing, and 2, he called the Vice President by her first name and she didn't do anything. Then they were shocked again when they saw her smile at him. You didn't have to do that, but thank you, Naruto, I'll handle this, she said. He stepped aside and it was his turn to be shocked as he watched her ruthlessly beat the boy with a horsewhip of all things and listened to her call him a fat pig. If it wasn't obvious before, it was now. This was definitely not the girl he grew up with. But strangely he liked this new Maiko. Right, I suppose I should finish the introductions. In order from left to right, Kayashi, Gakuto, Shingo, Andre, and Joe, Mary said, pointing at each boy. They're here because they decided to peek into the girls' shower, she said while looking at them with a disgusted look. On the outside, Naruto was shaking his head with disappointment, but on the inside he could see why they would try it. The school was filled with beautiful girls. If he had been here at the correct time, he probably would have joined them. Giving them a thumbs up when none of the girls were looking, they all nodded their heads, obviously not sorry for it. The reason you were called Vice President was because we need you here to explain to them what's going to happen. Well, I'm against it. The chairman has decided that should you all behave yourselves, you will have the weekends free and be allowed to remain in the school. Vice President, you and Hana will take turns supervising them as they work on the courtyard. The 2 girls nod before letting the president finish talking to the inmates. When she finished, she turned to Naruto. As long as you behave and follow the rules in the guidebook, this, she says, pointing at the dudes, won't happen to you. Do you have any questions? Nope. He says, if I have any questions I'll just ask Maiko, he says, throwing one arm around her shoulders, bringing her closer. The boys thought she'd beat him for putting a hand on her, but she didn't. She just nodded and said, I'll show him the ropes, she said before they left, his arms still around her. Why didn't she attack him? Asked Kayashi to the other guys. Not that it's any of your business, but the vice president told me that she and Namikaze-san were best friends when they were younger until he moved away. With that, the guys were left to their own devices, wondering what kind of guy this Namikaze was to be able to get along with the vice president that well. One thing was for sure though, they were all jealous as hell. Naruto and Maiko decided to go get something to eat and head to Naruto's room and continue talking. They talked about anything and everything. He wanted to ask what made her be so violent but decided against it. It was kind of hot seeing her be tough. When she finally had to leave to finish her homework and take care of some paperwork for the USC, she pecked him on the cheek before heading out. Looks like coming to this school won't be so bad after all. The following day Naruto was woken up by the rays of the sun hitting his face. Rubbing his eyes he checked the time and saw it was 6:30 in the morning. Damn, time to get ready. He thought before finally moving off the bed. Since he's a man it didn't take him longer than 5 minutes to have his uniform on and be ready for class. Quickly he checks his bag and makes sure he has every assignment that is due, and as he's doing so he can't help but wonder something. How do the guys not fall behind being in prison and all? He sat on his bed just checking social media to kill some time before heading to class. 15 minutes later he heads out the door to his first class. He arrives right on time, everyone is already in their seats. Taking his seat that he picked yesterday, he prepares to listen to the teacher begin her lesson. It's gonna be a long day. It didn't take long for Naruto to zone out and start thinking of other things. Mainly Maiko. What should we do this Friday? Should I invite her to the movies? Dinner? Is she even into that sort of thing? Given how much she's changed I don't know what her interests are now. Maybe we could go watch a kendo tournament in town. That last thought was immediately discarded. No, that's what she would have wanted to do. His thoughts were interrupted by someone calling him. He turned to his right and saw it was some girl he hadn't seen yesterday. She wore the standard girl's uniform properly just like Kurihara, only difference is that she doesn't use the pantyhose and she also doesn't wear socks. She has red hair with two big curled strands on either side of her face and bangs going left. Hello, my name is Takenamiya Kate, president of the student council. I would have introduced myself yesterday, but I had some matters to attend to. She says bowing slightly. Naruto looked around and noticed the teacher wasn't in the room anymore. She left to get some papers while you were spacing out. Says Kate knowing what he was thinking. Namek is Naruto, nice to meet you. He replied bowing. Something is off about this girl. She said she was the president of the student council. So there's two. When the teacher finally came back there was only a few minutes left of class, so they were allowed to pack up early. The rest of the day proceeded the same as yesterday, no friends in class and no one that really wanted to talk. The height of the school day was when his final class finally arrived. He was early so he went over to Maiko's desk to talk to her. She was wearing her usual uniform and he couldn't stop himself from glancing quickly at her almost exposed chest. Good thing there's only 6 guys at this school. People would be all over her. He sat on the seat next to hers for the time being. While he was on the subject of the guys he decided to ask her something. Hey Maiko, how long are the guys going to be in prison? They will be in for a month if they're on good behavior. They will be allowed 3 hours on the weekends unless specifically told otherwise. Should they try and escape before their time is up, they will be penalized by adding more time to their sentence. She explains. So I'll be alone for a month, that's if the guys don't do anything stupid. Don't get him wrong, he likes being with Maiko again, but there's some things you can only talk to guys about. After class Naruto and Maiko head back to his dorm to do the homework they were assigned. Along the way he can hear whispers and glances that other girls would send them. Some of them would say stuff like, "What's the vice president doing with him? I thought she hated men. Maybe she's escorting him to make sure he doesn't do anything perverted." Walking into his room he hears Maiko talk. "You haven't decorated your room at all. That's usually the first thing people do when they move in. The idiots already put posters of scantily clad women and games in their room." She comments. Taking a look around he realizes she's right. All that's in there is his bead, the dresses provided and a little desk. This Saturday or Sunday I'll head home to pick up some stuff. He sat at his desk and Maiko sat on his bed leaning against a headboard, one leg stretched out while the other leg was brought closer to her chest so she could put her folder on it. Naruto finished his assignments quickly and while he was waiting for her to finish, he sat next to her on the bed and asked something that had been on his mind. "Maiko, how did you get involved with the underground student council? You weren't exactly the most social person in school." She stopped writing and was silent for a bit before answering. "When you left after the first year of middle school, I was bullied quite a bit. Boys and girls would call me a loner and would also make fun of me because I already had somewhat big breasts." As she mentions her breasts she uses both hands to cup them and give them a little squeeze. Try as he might he could not look away. "One day when they were bullying me someone told them off, her name is Kurihara Mary. She helped me out and got me to be more confident and stand up for myself. I nearly beat one of the girls up. From that point on we became best friends and when we entered high school I joined the USC with her." By the time she finished her tale she finally noticed she was being held from behind and she had subconsciously adjusted so she could be with her back on his chest. Naruto started hugging her the moment she mentioned being called a loner. He felt bad she had to go through that. Though that might be the reason why she's so violent now. Naruto enjoyed being in that position, drawing circles on her abdomen over her shirt. Just as he was about to make himself comfortable, he heard a phone ring, and it wasn't his. Maiko shifted around to get her phone to check what the message said. Meanwhile, Naruto is thinking, damn, again, really? That's the second time that phone has interrupted a moment. Well, it seems that it's my turn to watch the inmates do their work on the courtyard. I don't think the president would mind if you came along, she says. Getting the message, Naruto puts his stuff away and follows her out the door. They arrived about 10 minutes later, and Maiko was to oversee the boys along with Midorikawa to make sure they weren't slacking off. Seeing that Midorikawa had already assigned 3 boys tasks, Maiko had Morikuzu and Fujino clean the shed. And remember, he only knows them by their real names as of now. Kayashi Pav. 5 minutes before Vice President arrives. Kayashi, Gakudo, the Vice President will be here soon to assign you your task. Stay there and don't do anything until she tells you to, says Hana while shooting me a deadly glare. Gakudo, I call out softly as to not be heard by anyone else. What is it, Kayashi? Don't know? He asks, looking at me. I don't know if you're aware, but I made plans to go see a sumo match with Chiyo-chan this week. Yes, I recall you saying something like that. I've decided I'm going to break out of here and I need your help. I tell him, hoping he won't turn to tell the others. After a few seconds, he looks over at me and says. Very well, Kayashi, don't know, yours truly will help you escape on one condition. Name it. Well, you're free. I need you to buy some limited edition 3 Kingdom figures of Guan Yu and Red Hair that are available once every 4 years. He says excitedly. I'll have to be quick about it, but if that's all, then I'll do it. Alright, listen up. I hear the voice of the vice president calling out to us. I notice the same guy that was with her yesterday is with her again today. I wonder what kind of person he is to be able to do pretty much whatever he wants with the vice president and not get beaten up. I can safely say that I and every other one of the guys here are jealous of him though. He's always with one of the hottest girls and isn't in prison. Life's not fair, I yell to myself. Kayashi, you and Gakudo are to clean that old shed over there, and you better not let me catch you 2 idiots messing around, she says venomously. Don't worry, Vice President, yours truly will. Ugh, he never got to finish as she slammed her boot to his face while applying pressure to the heel right at his temple. Silence, don't speak and do your work, she says before heading back to Namikaze. I decide we'd better get started, so Gakudo and I head towards the shed to start cleaning up. I start raking some of the leaves that have piled up over time. As I'm doing so, I notice something. Right there on the concrete wall near the ground, there's a hole. Not big enough for me to squeeze through, but if I dig at it enough with something, I can make it big enough for me to fit through. This is it, this right here is my way to go on my date with Chiyo-chan. I think in glee. Gakudo, where is Kayashi? I hear. Looking from the corner of the building, I see the vice president heading my way. I quickly cover the hole with some leaves for now and head back there. Here I am, Vice President, I'm sorry I took so long, there was a lot of junk. She just TSKS and tells me to get back to work. I head over to Gakudo to tell him about my discovery. Hey Gakudo, I think I found my way out. I tell him again, whispering as I notice Hana coming our way. How so? He asks while pretending to be busy. There's a hole on the wall behind the shed. I have it covered with leaves at the moment, but it can be found if one rakes them. I tell him, slightly nervous that someone will find it. Especially since if one of us breaks out, our sentence is increased for all of us. Don't worry, Kayashi, don't know, just let yours truly deal with that, he says. I wonder what he has planned. Naruto Pav. This overseeing job isn't so bad from what I can tell. I don't really do much except watch the ladies abuse the guys. Do I find it wrong that they do this? Yeah, but damn me if it isn't amusing every now and then. Is it weird that I like it when Maiko shows her sadistic side? Anyways, right now is one of those amusing moments as I witness Morikuzu and Fujino act out the most fake fight ever. I can't help but wonder, what are they trying to achieve by doing this? Oh look, Midorikawa is heading their way and she doesn't look happy. I watch on as she breaks up the fight by kicking them both into the shed, effectively breaking it. I whistle in appreciation, she's got a pretty mean kick. They apologize for their behavior and get back to work, and I turn my attention back to Maiko. For the next 10 minutes I just listen to her rant about how the guys are no good and whatnot before I feel my bladder start acting up. Hey Maiko, I'm going to use the restroom real quick, I'll be right back. She nods and goes for a round of patrol. As I'm heading to the restroom, I notice something odd. Midorikawa and Fujino are nowhere to be found. Where could they have gone? Surely Maiko would have noticed if they had fled. Putting the thought aside, I walk inside the building and see the stalls. It didn't have any urinals. The room was basically a square with the left side of the room being a mirror and sinks, while across from that is 4 stalls. I head to a stall and open the door and my jaw drops. Regular Pav. The sound of the stall door opening caused Hana's mouth to open in shock. How did someone get inside without her noticing? She must have been too distracted trying to get Kayashi to pee in front of her that she didn't realize they weren't alone in the restroom anymore. Naruto opened the stall and since he didn't know what was going on, he misinterpreted the situation. From his angle it looked very wrong to someone who didn't know their situation. He just walked in and sees the secretary of the USC on her knees in the boys' bathroom with her mouth open and Fujino's pants around his ankles. How else would someone interpret this? So he just said the first thing that came to mind. Sorry for interrupting you two, I'll just use the restroom later," he said, quickly closing the door and leaving the room. The two teens just stood and one kneeled, they're mortified about what had just happened. Kayashi was the first to speak. "Well, this is going to be a tough one to explain. Last time." The sound of the stall door opening caused Hana's mouth to open in shock. How did someone get inside without her noticing? She must have been too distracted trying to get Kayashi to pee in front of her that she didn't realize they weren't alone in the restroom anymore. Naruto opened the stall and since he didn't know what was going on, he misinterpreted the situation. From his angle it looked very wrong to someone who didn't know their situation. He just walked in and sees the secretary of the USC on her knees in the boys' bathroom with her mouth open and Fujino's pants around his ankles. How else would someone interpret this? So he just said the first thing that came to mind. Sorry for interrupting you two, I'll just use the restroom later," he said, quickly closing the door and leaving the room. The two teens just stood and one kneeled, they're mortified about what had just happened. Kayashi was the first to speak. "Well, this is going to be a tough one to explain. Present." Naruto laid down in his bed but didn't go to sleep. He couldn't believe what he had witnessed earlier in the day. How did Fujino manage to talk the secretary of the underground student council into blowing him while in prison? Kid must have killer game to pull that off. Especially considering how violent she is. He said to himself. It was about 10:30 in the night and he couldn't sleep, so he decided to go for a walk. There was no rule against it, so why not? He left his room in only a black muscle shirt and black basketball shorts with an orange stripe running down the side, along with his regular tennis shoes. He didn't have a specific location in mind, he just started walking. As he did, he was still thinking about the incident. He had accidentally stopped a fellow guy from getting some play. Unacceptable. While thinking about all this, he had ended up at the shed where the whole thing began. Now that he was here, he recalled Fujino had spent a lot of time over here, in the back to be more specific. Looking back there, he realized exactly why he was there. There was a hole in the wall. He's planning to break out, but for what reason? He wouldn't tell Maiko about this, he'll ask Fujino himself. With this new information, he headed back to his room, though now he left with questions that hopefully would be answered soon. On his way back, he had another realization, Morikuzu must be in on it as well. Suddenly it all makes sense. He instigated the fake fight with Fujino to have Midorikawa drop the shed to conceal the hole, which he knew was there. If he knows, are the other three in on it as well? He finally arrived at his room and fell asleep with little trouble. One thing was for sure though, things were getting interesting. The next day. As usual, Naruto accompanied Maiko to do her patrols. It's become more of a routine now, she doesn't have to ask him to come with her, he just goes. Looking around, he sees Fujino working in the area of the hole. They make eye contact and Fujino flags him down. "Hey Maiko, I'm going to go tell Fujino to clean a specific spot, he keeps missing it and it's starting to bug me." He lies. She nods and says if he gets out of line, you have my permission to hit him. He heads over to him and speaks. "Fujino-san, what did you call me over here for?" he asks calmly. "You can call me Kayashi, Namikaze-san." "Alright, in that case just call me Naruto." He nods and starts talking about what you saw yesterday. Me and Hana were just. He didn't get to finish as Naruto put his hand up. "I know what you're going to say, you were going to tell me about how you were just about to have the time of your life before I ruined it. I'm sorry I barged in, I should have knocked. I'll make it up to you, I promise. You should continue cleaning before Maiko gets mad," he says while jogging back. "What? No, that's not it." Was too late, Naruto was out of earshot. Damn, now he thinks it was intentional. Oh well, I'll deal with it later. Right now I have to get a practice run, I need to go out for at least one since I have to be out for 3 on the actual day of the date. As he's exploring his environment, calculating his escape route, he hears something from behind him. It's the chairman of the school. What's he doing here, he whispers to himself. He seems to be burying something, with him here he can't get back to the hall to get back to school. But Naruto. Everyone is doing their job just as instructed, but something is wrong. Kayashi is not in sight. He must have gone through the hole. It's been about an hour, what is he doing out there? "Naruto. Have you seen Kayashi? He's been gone a long time," says Maiko, her eyes narrowing a bit at the mention of the prisoner. "Yeah, he should be behind the broken shed doing some cleaning in the spot I told him. He covered for him." Kayashi better come back from wherever the hell he is, he can only distract Maiko for so long before she gets frustrated. General. The chairman had finally finished burying his collection of photos and has started off. This is Kayashi's chance as he makes a break for the hole. Meanwhile Maiko has had enough of waiting and is heading to his location to ask just what he was doing, that he didn't answer her when she called for him. Just as Kayashi dives through the hole, only half of his body gets through. The other half is stuck, and to make it worse, he can hear the heels of the vice president's boots getting closer to him. He hangs his head in resignation knowing it's over, he's busted. Unbeknown to everyone, Gakuto had a small string connected to one of the broken pieces of wood. When the vice president stepped on it, he pulled it so that she would trip. This was enough time apparently, since Kayashi was the one to offer a hand up. Kayashi and Gakuto were unaware that Shingo had been looking at them with a bit of suspicion. "You got lucky, you just made it," thought Naruto. She tells Kayashi to respond the next time she calls his name and turns and walks to check on the others. Gakuto goes in that direction as well. Just as Kayashi is about to pass, Naruto puts a hand on his shoulder and stops him. "Did you enjoy yourself out there?" All the blood drained from Kayashi's face. He had been caught, but how? He was sure no one was around to see him. In a panic he spoke, "Please don't tell the vice president. I'm begging you." "Relax, I'm not going to tell her anything." That seemed to calm him down a bit. "I do want to know though, just what are you planning to break out for?" Kayashi weighed his options. He could try and lie but could risk being ratted out even though he said he wouldn't, or he could tell the truth and hope he sympathized with him. Taking a deep breath he began to tell him his story. How he had a date with Chiyo-chan, but because he was here he had to break out. He promised her he would be there. After the tale was over, Naruto looked at the boy with some newfound respect. He was keeping his promise even if he was locked up, he liked that. "Don't worry Kayashi, I won't say a thing. I wish you luck." With that he left. As he headed in Maiko's direction he realized something. He had been so caught up in his story he forgot one important detail. Wasn't he in some sort of relationship with Midori Kawahana? And now he's going on a date with another girl. Does he have no shame? Once he finally caught up to Maiko, he stood next to her as they watched the prisoners continue to do their manual labor. As he's observing he hears her speak to him. "Naruto, would you like to come to my room tonight? I want to thank you for helping me out with my task as overseer. We could go get something to eat and watch something on TV." "Sounds great. I'll be there at 8. "Sound good?" She looked over the papers and read out loud. "Kayashi, a dictionary, approved. Gakuto, an MP3 player, denied. But it's for my English listening practice," he pleaded. "I'll consider it." Shingo, hair gel, denied. Andre wanted some sort of pencil thing. "Joe, an ant farm, I'll consider it," she said. She then pulled out a calendar and placed it on the cell wall. While she was doing that, the one named Shingo spoke to him. "I'm going to guess that you're the one who did that to her neck." "Yeah, before we came here." He replied awkwardly, he didn't think they'd ask him about it. "Did you guys go all the way?" he asked slyly. "Nah haha, before it went further we had to come here." "Man, I envy you so much right now," he said sighing. No doubt he hates being trapped here. "Don't worry man, I'm sure once you're out you'll find someone. There's 1060 girls in this school, one of them has to like you," Naruto said. "Yeah, I hope so," he says with a small smile and calm voice, no doubt picturing it in his mind already. "This guy is pretty cool. Don't tell Maiko anything, but I'll get you your hair gel," he says, bumping fists with him. Maiko told the boys about the different work they'd be doing on Saturday. I noticed the looks that came across Kayashi and Morikuzu. This obviously interfered with their escape plan. "Naruto, we're leaving." The next day. Shingo is pushing a cart with debris on it when he sees Kayashi and Gakuto kneeling talking. "I can't wait for this Saturday, I haven't actually hung out with those two in a while, it'll be cool," he thinks to himself. They're talking so low that he can only make out certain words. The words he does make out though doesn't leave him with a good feeling. Looking over the cart he listens in. Shingo has tight ass, his mouth drops and he covers it before any noise comes out. Quickly he kneels behind the cart to avoid being seen. Looking forward he sees Naruto and gets his attention by waving his hand sporadically. As Naruto heads his way, Shingo grabs him by the arm and makes him hide as well. Mind telling me what we're doing back here?" asks Naruto, confused. "Alright, listen," Shingo goes on to explain what he heard as he was passing by. Now Naruto is thinking about this newfound information. So Kayashi is planning to date some mystery girl while having lustful encounters with Midorikawa, and now he's aiming for Shingo. What is it with Kayashi? Kayashi doesn't look like the type to go after guys, but if he did say Shingo had a tight ass, how do you explain that? For now he'll give the guy the benefit of the doubt. "Okay, calm down, there's a chance you may have just misheard. Listen closely, if you hear anything else, you don't want to spread rumors without any proof," Naruto advises before leaving. Later that night. Buzz buzz buzz. Naruto checks his phone and sees it's a text from Maiko. She wants him to restock the men's bathroom supply with soap. Having nothing better to do, he agrees and heads to the prison, already knowing where the stuff was. Heading to the prison, he couldn't help but think of what Shingo had told him. It had to be a misunderstanding, right? There's no way Kayashi swung that way. Once inside, he heads towards the bathroom and hears water running. Looks like he'll have to yell at them to get it once he's gone. When he reaches the bathroom, he notices that Shingo is already nude, about to head in. "Yo, what are you doing here?" Shingo asks him. "Just gonna give you guys more soap, you mind taking it in with you?" Shingo doesn't mind. As he's heading inside, he sees Gakuto with his head at Kayashi's crotch, with the guy saying it feels good. Naruto, Shingo yells quietly. "What?" he asks, confused. Shingo waves him over to look inside. Naruto doesn't know why he listens to him, but he does, and when they look again, they see Kayashi holding Gakuto by the waist, with Gakuto on the ground on all fours, saying it hurts. Jesus Christ, thinks Naruto. Looks like Shingo was right. They've been spotted. The two boys showering come closer to them. "Shingo Dono, come on in, yours truly will wash your back for you. You said you wanted to have a blast. You two Namikaze Dono, this could be a good chance for us to get to know each other," says Gakuto with an insane look on his face. "I didn't mean it like that, I have to go," yells Shingo. "Sorry man, I'm not Kylo Ren, I'm not going to be swayed over to your side," replies Naruto before he and Shingo leave in a hurry. When they were gone, Gakuto asks, "Who's Kylo Ren?" Just outside, a covered-up Shingo and Naruto are catching their breaths. "Looks like you were right after all," says Naruto before going back to his room. On the way there, he thinks, damn, Kayashi, who would have guessed. For the next 2 days, Naruto wasn't able to go with Maiko on the patrols, as he actually had a few tests to study for and quite a bit of work. When he did show up though, he had found out something rather interesting. He looks at the inmates lined up in front of Maiko, and he notices Gakuto is wearing brown pants because he shit himself in computer class. He hears one of the boys mutter something about that being Kayashi's fault and stifles a laugh. He listens as Maiko taunts him before having them go to work. He can't help but feel a bit bad for the guy, he's effectively ruined his reputation. Naruto decides he'll try and help the guy out somehow. Have you ever met someone so stupid that they amuse you and you can't help but get along with that person? Then they go along and do something so outrageously stupid that you couldn't believe such a level of stupidity actually existed. Well, this is exactly what Naruto is experiencing. In his 3rd class, he just received word that Gakuto had pulled down Kurihara's skirt while cleaning. Some girls were talking about what they saw and they said he jumped and pulled them down while looking upwards. He's not taking their complete word for it since the girls around here are against them, so the story could be exaggerated, but still. It does sound like something the guy would do. One thing is for certain though, there's no way that Gakuto will come out of this unharmed. I've seen the guys get beat just for speaking, I wonder what will happen to him for this. But that thought came something else. Those guys get treated pretty damn badly. Sure, they tried to peek at the girls in the shower, but it's not like they actually touched the girls. There's no reason for them to be treated so poorly. I've got an idea. Naruto thinks. Once the whole school day was over, Naruto texted Maiko. "Hey, I won't be able to go with you on your patrol, there's something important I need to do." He read out loud to himself before sending. He heads to his dorm to drop his stuff off and change into a simple t-shirt and jeans before heading to his destination. The chairman's office. Knocking on the door, he waits until the man tells him to come in. As usual, he's sitting at his desk looking at his computer screen. Naruto stands there in silence. The only sound being made is the sound of the computer mouse being clicked. Speaking of which, is his mouse pad someone's ass? Is that even allowed? "So Mr. Namikaze, what can I help you with?" "I actually came because I have a concern and a request if you would hear me out," he says. "What is it that you would like?" "Firstly, I'd like to talk about the poor treatment the boys in the prison are receiving. They get beaten for every little thing, and I've seen what they eat, the way they're treated is borderline inhumane." "I see, and your request?" "I know that I can't change how they're treated, so I'd at least like it if twice a week they'd get a decent meal. As I've said, I have seen what they eat, I wouldn't exactly call it food," Naruto explains. The chairman is quiet. If word got out about how poorly some students are being treated, the school's reputation could go down the drain and might have to close for some time. After a minute of thinking, he speaks up. "Your request is reasonable, I'll make sure it gets done." Naruto nods in appreciation before remembering something. "If I may ask one more thing, what rights do the guys have on the weekends?" He asks, remembering that Kayashi wanted to go on a date and the schedule that was drawn up by the president. "They're allowed a few hours free unless I directly say otherwise." Naruto nods in understanding. "Thank you for answering my questions and fulfilling my request. I'll be going now," he says, bowing before leaving. As Naruto exits the door he heads to his new destination. Looks like the president is acting on her own now, it's time to pay her a visit. As he arrives at her office door he hears her speaking to others about the boys. He can recognize both Maiko and Midorikawa's voices. Realizing she was upset he takes out his phone and begins to record the conversation. This incident happened because of your lack of supervision, Vice President. I want you to be stricter on them so that something like this doesn't happen again, because if it does you will suffer by my crows. Says Mary. Naruto narrows his eyes at what he heard, not only because now she wants to punish the guys even more, but because now she's threatening Maiko. I'm sorry, President. He hears her tell Mary. That just serves to piss him off even more. Hearing footsteps near the door he hides behind some of the lockers so Maiko wouldn't see him. Once the sound of her steps are gone he leaves his spot and enters the room. Good afternoon, Namikaze-san, what can I do for you? She asks with a calm voice. I just wanted to let you know that this Saturday I'll be taking Maiko with me on an errand. He states while standing up, arms crossed. Unfortunately I can't allow that as she's busy on Saturday. She says. Naruto knows what she's having her do but he plays along with her. I see, well then what about if I take one of the boys? If they go with me they'll still be doing work just somewhere else. I cannot allow that either, if they have none of us to supervise them what's stopping them from leaving you? She says. Well, as far as I'm aware they do have a few hours free on the weekend so it shouldn't be a problem. Normally yes, but they don't have the weekend free anymore as they've been assigned to work that day. That's interesting because I spoke to the chairman and I've been told they can't lose their weekend rights unless he himself specifically says otherwise. He counters. But back to our main conversation about me taking Maiko on Saturday. He says before pulling out his phone. He puts it on her desk and plays back everything she had just said to Maiko moments ago. Her eyes widen as the recording continued. I have no problem letting the chairman hear this, threatening a fellow student as well as over-abusing those you have in prison. I'm sure those are enough reasons for you to be thrown in prison as well, if not expelled. Anna bolts up and says, how dare you threaten the president like that? All while throwing the same kick she's been hitting Kayashi and Gakuto with. Naruto just puts his arm up and blocks it all while maintaining eye contact with Mary. Mary is just sitting there, shock gone replaced with anger. Her eyes are narrowed and her jaw clenched. He had her cornered. Before she could say anything he spoke once more. I'm taking Maiko on Saturday, oh, and also the chairman has approved that the boys will get 2 decent meals per week. Being the nice guy that I am, I'll go ask what they want and deliver the list to you later. He says heading for the door. Before he exited however he stopped and turned back and spoke. I want you to know that I'm grateful to you for taking care of Maiko in middle school when I wasn't there. However, as long as I'm here no one is going to threaten her, if anyone so much as damages one hair on her head, they'll have to deal with me. He says before exiting. Before heading to the prison to tell the guys he heads to his dorm to pick something up as a part of keeping his word. Prison. He walks in and immediately everyone lines up assuming that it's one of the USC members. Upon seeing him he sees them all exhale a breath of relief. Namikaze-san. What brings you here? Asks Kayashi. Just Naruto is fine, anyway I got good news for you guys. He explains to them about what he talked to the chairman about and how he got them food. Thank you for doing this for us Naruto Dono. Yells Gakuto with tears streaming down his face. Yeah, you wouldn't believe just how hungry we actually go. Says Andre. They tell him what they would like to eat and he writes it down. The guys just talk for a bit before Naruto decides to leave. Though before he goes he talks to them one last time. Alright guys, I'm out, just remember I'm going through a lot of trouble to do this for you, I'm sure now the president hates me too, so don't do anything too stupid to mess this up. Oh and Shingo. He says throwing him a container. There's your hair gel, make sure Maiko doesn't see it, if she does you didn't get it from me. Shingo nods and puts it away. Saturday. Naruto wakes up and takes a look around and sees his empty room. Just like everyone else in the mornings he has to give himself a few minutes to remember what day it is. He realizes today he has to go get some belongings from home to make this place feel a little roomier. Taking out his phone he makes a call. Hello? Comes the voice on the other side. Hey Shikamaru, how you doing? He asks breaking the ice. What do you need Naruto? He asks already knowing the blonde needs something. Alright, I need to borrow your truck to move some stuff from my parents' place over to my dorm here. Do you mind? He asks hopefully. Sure, I'll take it over to your parents' place later, but tomorrow you mind taking it to my uncle's house? I think he needs it for something, you know the one right? Yeah, I can do that, thanks man, I owe you big time. Yeah, whatever, I'm going back to sleep now, goodbye. Hanging up the phone Naruto scrolls through his contacts until he finds the one he's looking for. He starts texting Maiko letting her know about today. Hey Maiko, today you're going on an errand with me. I've already run it by your president and she was more than happy to allow you to go with me, she'll have someone replace you at the track. He reads out loud, snickering a bit at that last part. Mary was anything but happy. Reading it once more, he laughs again before sending it. Man, I'm funny. He compliments himself. Not a minute later he got a reply from her saying as long as the president was okay with it then okay. Texting her to meet him in front of the gate at 1 p.m. he gets ready for the day. When the time finally came he was standing right next to the sign that read Hachimitsu Academy. He was dressed in casual clothes as he would be doing some lifting. A plain t-shirt, some dark blue jeans, and some old Nikes. He can't help but notice that everyone is already outside, either heading to the bleachers to spectate or stretching to participate in the events. He was about 10 minutes early, so he hoped Maiko wouldn't be too long. As he was waiting he heard someone behind him. Turning around he noticed it was one of the girls that was taking part in the event. She looked quite nervous. Yes, can I help you with something? He asks with a smile which made the girl even more nervous. Yes, I was wondering if you would like to. She didn't finish as at that moment Maiko arrived. That normally wouldn't be a problem for people, but in this case it was. She showed up, pulled Naruto into a rough kiss while looking at the poor girl and pulled him by the hand and said let's go. And they left. She may not have said anything to the girl, but the look she gave was more than enough to relay the message. Naruto was hers. As they were walking to the train station Naruto asked a question. So what was that about back there? Did it bother you? She asked. Not at all, just wondering. Then it doesn't matter, I wanted to kiss you and I did. Now I have a question, what exactly are we going to do? She asked since he never told her. We're going to my house to bring some stuff, you were right when you said my room was too empty. And how are we going to get it back here? My friend is letting me borrow his truck, I have a license, I just don't have enough money to buy myself a car. He said. She nods and they wait for the train. It took 20 minutes for the train to arrive and for them to get off on the correct stop. Before we go to my house let's stop by and get something to eat, my treat. He offers. She nods her head and smiles. They head to a small ramen stand that he would frequent when he lived here. Luckily they were the only ones in the stand, otherwise he was sure people would be ogling Maiko. Though she's wearing something revealing, it's not as revealing as her school uniform. She's wearing a black tight jeans, a loose-fitting blue shirt which still showed how big her chest was, and her sneakers. She still kept her hair in the same way she always did. Hey am, can we get 2 bowls of ramen? Naruto shouted to the back. Soon a girl a few years older than them came out from the back. She was wearing a white apron and bandana. That's all they could see from behind the counter. Naruto, is that you? Who's your friend? She asks out loud. Though in her mind she was thinking something else. Her boobs are huge. Before Naruto could speak Maiko beat him to it. I'm his girlfriend, nice to meet you. She said. Wow Naruto, you sure got yourself a good one, 2 bowls of ramen coming right up. She said before getting to work. So you used to come here a lot? She asked as they waited for their food. Yeah, once we moved here I saw this place after school and decided to stop by, I loved it so I came almost every week. Once their food finally arrived they just talked about different things Naruto did once moving here. When they were done they walked to Naruto's place, which wasn't too far away. My place is just a few minutes ahead, I'm sure my mom will be surprised to see you again. He says before his eyes widen. He had just remembered his mom knows the young, shy, adorable Maiko, not the tough, sexy one. Why do I feel like something is going to go wrong, he says to himself in his mind. Well, here we are. He says as they stop in front of his house. His house was a light gray 2-story house with a small white wall in the front with their family's name on it. There was a small black gate to the right with a white truck parked. In the left side of the 2nd story there was a small balcony with some clotheslines drying some clothing. Knocking twice before walking in, Naruto calls out, Mom, Dad, I'm home. He hears footsteps coming from the kitchen area and he sees his mom Kushina. She was a woman in her mid-30s with long red hair and is wearing blue capri pants, a yellow shirt with a green apron over it. Hello son, how are you? She asks while hugging him. Her attention is turned to the silver-haired beauty next to her son. Looking at her once over she smiles in recognition. Maiko-chan, is that you? She asks while also hugging her. Look at what a beauty you've become. She says looking her up and down. They hear steps coming from upstairs and soon it's revealed to be a man also in his mid-30s. He looks like an older version of Naruto just with a bit longer hair and his 2 bangs on either side of his face. Hey son, what brings you here? He says shaking hands with his son. He too looks over at the girl and recognizes her. Hello Maiko-chan, how have you been? He asks. Hello Mr. and Mrs. Namikaze. She says bowing a little lower than normally. She's known these people since she was little and has come to respect them. Oh, I always told me you could just call me Kushina. His mom whined. Anyway, what did you guys come for? Are you hungry? She asks. No mom, it's okay, we're just here to get some stuff from my room to take to my dorm. It's a little plain. He says as they head upstairs to his old room. Once Naruto sees the things he wants to take, he starts hauling to the truck. Maiko noticed that he kept giving her all of the light stuff. You know, if you don't give me some of the heavier stuff we'll be here all day. Do your parents know we're expected back today? She says, crossing her arms. They hadn't noticed that as they were moving stuff in the room looking for anything Naruto wanted to take, his parents were coming up the stairs and they misheard what Maiko had said. Kushina heard, do your parents know we're expecting? She paled and they both rushed into the room. Naruto, is that true? She asks frantically. Naruto just looks at her a bit confused. Well yeah, I have to go back today. What did she think? He thinks to himself, assuming that's what she was talking about. Well yeah. He says before looking at Maiko, who was making a face. You okay, Maiko? He asks. She was starting to think eating before moving stuff wasn't such a good idea, now her stomach hurt. Yes, I'm fine, my stomach just hurts a bit, that's all. Before bending over to pick up a box. Naruto, you got her pregnant. She yelled. What? No, we haven't done anything like that. He yells back, his face growing a bit red. Minato looks over at Maiko and notices a mark on her neck. He pokes Kushina in the rib and points to his neck before pointing at Maiko. She sees the hickey and pales even further, if that's possible. Naruto notices what they're looking at and his shoulders drop. Damn, that is not gonna help clear this up. He thinks. His mom breaks down in tears, crying about how her son became a sexual deviant and got a girl pregnant and how she was too young to be a grandmother. Grabbing Maiko by the arm, he leads her out. He calls back, I'll call you guys tomorrow once you've calmed down and I'll explain this whole misunderstanding. No one is pregnant. He says before they head out the door and get in the truck. On the drive back, Maiko comments, that's not what I expected to happen today. She says, chuckling. He laughs along with her, yet today it did not go as he had envisioned. They arrived at school about 30 minutes later and he parked in the student lot. The meet should be over by now, I wonder how it went for Kayashi. He thought to himself, not knowing that Kayashi had been busted. It didn't take long for Naruto and Maiko to take all of his stuff up to his room. 10 minutes, mostly because they had to go up a few stairs and his room was at the end of the hall. Once everything was out of their respective boxes, Maiko's phone rang. Man, I hate that damn phone. He thinks to himself. Every time he and Maiko are having fun or about to have more fun, that phone seems to go off. He's starting to think that maybe fate just doesn't want him to be happy. Perhaps it should get misplaced. He sees her face go from blank to shock. What? She yells. Very well, I'll be right there. What's wrong? He asks. The president found out that Kayashi escaped. She says. Well, let's go see what's happening. Actually, the president said that only the members of the underground student council and the chairman can be present right now. She says apologetically. Oh, alright. He says and watches her rush out. Having nothing better to do, he decides to hook up his PlayStation 4 and connect to the Wi-Fi and play some Battlefield. As he's waiting for the updates to install, his mind starts wondering. How did Kayashi get caught? How will his friends react to this? Actually, forget that, I hope he didn't mention that I knew about his plan and didn't say anything. Another thing is how Kurihara said only members and the chairman could attend right now makes me suspicious. Granted, I'm not a member and have no real reason being there, but still, I have a feeling she's planning something. He thinks to himself, hoping he was just overthinking things. While Naruto was in his room pondering, the 3 members of the USC were sitting in silence. So what will happen now? The silence is broken by Hana. Kayashi will be expelled. The other 4 boys will have their sentences raised by a month. Says Mary. Well, I agree with your idea, we don't actually have the authority to expel anyone. Says Maiko. They watch as Mary stands and walks to her desk before opening a drawer and pulling out a piece of paper. She puts it on the small coffee table and says, then we'll have to have Kayashi withdraw willingly from the school. This will be the first step in Plan DTO to get rid of the boys. They've proven to be far too irresponsible to be allowed to stay here. She says. Maiko looks at her and asks all the boys. It doesn't take a genius to figure out what her actually question was. Does that include Naruto? No, Vice President, Namikaze-san will not be included in the plan. He has done nothing wrong to warrant expulsion. However, since he is not a member of the USC, he cannot be allowed to know about the plan, understand? She says. Maiko nods. Good, now Vice President, I want you to go through the boys' cell. See if you can find any evidence that the other boys were in on the plan with Kayashi. He is still in solitary confinement and the others are doing manual labor, so you should have plenty of time. Yes, President. She says, bowing before leaving. Once they were sure that she was out of earshot, Mary turned to Hana. We're going to have to do something about Namikaze-san. She says to her. What do you mean? Hana replies. He's against us. He sympathizes with the boys too much. He doesn't see them for what they truly are like we do. If we're going to have them removed from the school, he'll have to be dealt with. She says, putting her empty cup on the table. That's going to be difficult. Not only is he physically strong, he's smart too, so we can't trick him into doing anything, nor can we beat him. On top of that, the vice president seems to be very fond of him. Hana replies. We'll have to be sure that the vice president doesn't find out. Anyway, back to the other boys. I'm going to speak to the chairman about their eating arrangement. I think it's fair to say that they no longer deserve their quality food. Please go and keep an eye on the pigs. She commands before leaving the room. The next day. This day was boring as hell. Not many people were online to play with, but he had texted Maiko to see if she wanted to hang out, but she said she was busy. He went to his window and could faintly make out the prison building. That's it. He thought. He put on his shoes and a plain black tee and headed out. The guidebook that Kurihara had given him didn't say that he couldn't visit them. In fact, it didn't have any visiting hours there. With that in mind, he headed out to see what was happening with them. Most importantly, maybe he could find out how Kayashi had been caught. When he arrived at the prison, he noticed that there were only 4 of them present. Leaning against the bars, he says yo and gets their attention. Ah, Naruto, don't know what brings you here today? Asks Gakuto. Not much, I was bored and decided to come visit. He notices that Gakuto, Joe, and Andre were sitting on one side of the table, while Kayashi was by himself on the opposite end. Something else he noticed was that Shingo was not there. So why do you guys look so down? Naruto asks. Andre is the one who answered. Kayashi-kun broke out of prison to go on a date and got us all longer sentences. He says. Despicable. Says Joe before he starts coughing uncontrollably. How did you get caught? Naruto asks Kayashi. The answer came from his right as he saw Shingo being led back into the cell by Maiko. Shingo spoke. He took a picture with his date and the photo ended up on social media. The president just so happened to see it and that was all the proof she needed. Congratulations, Kayashi, you played yourself. He says as he sits down. Naruto, the prisoners aren't allowed to have visitors unless they're members of the USC. I'm finished here anyway, let's go to my room. She says as she locks the cell. Alright. Later, guys. He calls out and gets a chorus of goodbyes from them. As he and Maiko walk to her room, he asks. So what happened with the boys? He asks. He knows that they got another month, but he's interested in what happened to Kayashi. The 5 will get an additional month added to their prison time. Kayashi spent most of yesterday in solitary confinement. She says, not telling him about the possible expulsion. Isn't it a bit harsh to punish the other 4 for something they had no part in? I mean, Kayashi is the one who broke out, why do the others have to pay for it? He asks. No, that's the way the president has done things to keep people in line since middle school. She says. So this all goes back to Kurihara, he thinks to himself. He's not surprised she'd make them all pay. The rest of the walk to her room was in silence. Then he remembered that Shingo had mentioned something about social media. Naruto pulled out his phone and made it look like he was just checking something unimportant. In reality, he was looking to see what this Chiyo-chan looked like. He had seen how miserable Kayashi looked all by himself and decided he'd do something to help him out. He had a plan. Just like them, Shingo was also silent. He was sitting on his chair listening to Gakuto go on about the 3 kingdoms and the others, besides Kayashi, paying attention. He, however, was thinking about what had transpired moments ago. Flashback. Shingo was furious, their sentence had been extended by a month. Why? Because Kayashi decided to break out to go on a date. They had been friends since middle school, you'd think he'd at least tell him about his plan. Would he have helped? Maybe. They could have been able to pull it off without getting a longer sentence. TSK. Some friend. He was pulled from his thoughts by the sound of heels coming closer, no doubt it was the vice president. He was correct as 2 seconds later she was standing in front of their cell. Shut up. She said. She then looked directly at Shingo and said, you, come with me. She opened the cell door and led him down the hall to a small office. She ushers him inside and has him take a seat on one of the chairs in front of a metal desk. He sits quietly and watches as she leans up against the wall near a cabinet. Tell me, do you think what happened to you was unfair? She asks. You mean us getting longer time locked up? Then yeah. He says, scowling. He watches as she opens the cabinet and pulls out a white box and puts it in front of him. What is this? Open it, she orders, sitting across from him. He does as he's told and his mouth waters when he sees the chocolate cake. I'm willing to let you have it. This along with more well-prepared food. She says. It's sounding too good to be true. There has to be a catch to this. What's the catch? I want you to tell me what is going on inside the prison. Anything your friends are doing. She says. You want me to be a snitch for you? Not gonna happen, no matter how good the food looks. Let's go back to the cell. I'm willing to give you time outside the prison every day. That got him to reconsider. Sure, he'd be snitching on his friends, but he'd be able to leave this place. He'd be able to interact with other people and walk around without the fear of being beaten for just breathing. Besides, after what Kayashi had done, it was time something good happened to him. His mind was made up. Alright, I'll do it. Excellent. Enjoy the cake. She says, putting a fork in front of him. Once he had consumed the entire cake, he was led back to his cell when he heard the voice of Naruto ask, "How did you get caught?" Flashback end. I think the first place I'll go is the arcade in town. No wait, I need to get the soda for the vice president. Then I'll go get some food from that place across the street. He thinks to himself, being sure not so smile as to give it away. The next day. Out in the courtyard, the boys were all once again doing their manual labor. At least that's what it looked like. Shingo was working as well, only he was keeping his eye out for anything to report back to the vice president. He saw how Joe damn near beat Andre for stepping on an ant. She'll want to know that for sure. He thought to himself before getting back to work. He continued carrying large pieces of 2x4 until he saw the vice president approach. "I saw something you might want to know about," he says. Naruto in the meantime had found out what Chiyo looked like and was going to go find her. Maiko had told him how Kayashi had dressed up as a girl to walk past the front gate and had taken Chiyo's uniform. They all believe him to be a pervert, but Naruto believes that it was most likely a mistake due to being in a hurry. Thus his plan was hatched. With permission from one of the teachers in charge of the girls' dorms, he managed to get inside and find out where Chiyo was staying. He knocked on her door and Chiyo herself opened the door and gained a confused face upon seeing him. "Namikaze-san," she says. She had never met him but had heard of him. It wasn't hard considering he was basically attached at the hip to the man-hating Maiko and was one of 6 boys in the school. "Hello Kurihara-san, I needed to talk to you if you don't mind. It's kind of important." Chiyo moves aside and lets him in and motions him to sit down anywhere he liked while she sat at her bed along with her roommate. "Is there something I can do for you?" she asks. "Actually yes. It's about my friend Kayashi." He notices that her face changed into an upset one. "I don't want to talk about that pervert," she says, looking away. "I think you have the wrong idea. I mean, do you really think he would steal your uniform purposely and then take it with him to go see you? His only choice was to dress up as a girl since your sister wouldn't let him leave and he took yours by accident. I don't think he would go through all of that trouble just if he was a pervert," he says. "Look at this photo of you and him, he genuinely looks happy to be there with you. If he was a pervert you would be able to tell right away." Chiyo stayed quiet for a bit, going through the information in her head. What Naruto was saying made sense. Why would he go through all that trouble just to be a pervert? Just a little more. He thinks before speaking again. "You didn't see him in the prison, Kurihara. He looked miserable, all his friends have turned their back on him and isolated him. He has no one. You were the only thing he considered good to him in this school, since everyone mistreats him," he says. "You're right," she says quietly. "I'm going to go talk to my sister and get the chance to speak to him. Thank you, I was just so confused and believed that he was like the others." He stands up and they head for the door. "No problem, just tell him what you feel," he says, walking away. "You're not coming along?" she asks. "No, that seems more like a private conversation. Besides, I have some errands I need to run." Now that was done, he still had to take the truck over to Shikamaru's uncle's place. The drive only took about 15 minutes since there was a bit of traffic, but everything went well. As he was walking through the city, he remembered that his mini fridge didn't have any drinks. Might as well stop by and stock up. As he was waiting to cross the street to get to the convenience store, he noticed a slick-haired blonde walking into the same store. What's Shingo doing here? He's supposed to be in prison. Did he break out too? He thought to himself. He decided he'd stock up later and follow Shingo to see what he was up to. He saw the dude buy a 2-liter soda and walk out. By way Shingo kept checking his watch, Naruto assumed that he did indeed break out. He saw him go into an arcade and suck at a few rounds of some fighting game when something happened. He started talking to some girl. She was probably his age or maybe older. He saw how she would get close to him and how Shingo would blush. So he broke out to meet a girl. "Weren't you calling Kayashi a hypocrite not too long ago?" he thinks to himself. He stays spying on him for a while before noticing Shingo panic after looking at his watch and heading out. He looked back at the girl and saw her demeanor change, and she made a phone call while looking in Shingo's direction. He narrowed his eyes at that. What could she be doing? Heading out to get his drinks, he didn't have much time to ponder what had happened as his phone rang. Looking at the screen, he saw an unrecognizable number. "Hello?" he answers. "Hey," says the person on the other side. He could tell it was a woman and sounded familiar, but he couldn't put his finger on it. "Yeah, who's this?" "Try and guess," says the girl. After a few seconds of thinking, the girl spoke again. I'll give you a hint. Think back to middle school. Naruto went through each person he knew in middle school, and after about 15 seconds a name finally came to mind. Rissa? That's right. It's nice to know my best friend still remembers me. She says. I haven't heard from you in a long time. What happened? He asks. My phone broke and I've just recently gotten a new one. I got my old contacts back but a new number, so I'm calling everyone. Not that, that's many people. Well, it's good to hear from you again. How's your school? It fucking sucks. But my grades are really good and one of my friends actually managed to get me admitted into your school. She says. You're coming to Hachimitsu? That's great. In fact, there's someone I want you to meet when you get here. I know you two will get along great. How long until you transfer? He asks. About a week or two. Hey listen, I have to go. I'll see you soon. Alright, later. He hangs up the phone and continues his errands. Rissa was his best friend after he had to move to a new middle school. She was lonely and didn't talk to anyone. It took a while, but they became good friends. Now he was excited that she was going to be coming to his school. Maiko and Rissa are going to get along great. Little does he know just how that will turn out. The following day. He had gone to class as he did on the weekdays. Normally he has no trouble paying attention to the teachers, seeing as the girls don't seem to trust him. All day something had been troubling him. Well, two things really. First, Chio had told him about how Kurihara had tried to get Kayashi to leave the school himself. He was impressed by how she threatened to leave the school as well if they forced him to leave. This meant Kurihara was getting bolder. She's getting more aggressive in her attempt to get rid of the boys. The other thing is the girl he saw with Shingo yesterday. He couldn't get her out of his head, not in a romantic way mind you. Sure, he could admit that she was pretty, but she had nothing on Maiko. In his eyes no one did. No, he was more concerned with how her demeanor changed the moment Shingo left. She also made a call while keeping her eye on him until he was out of sight. It was possible that she was just making a call to someone unimportant, but his gut was telling him otherwise. Something fishy was going on. As he's walking down the halls of the school, he notices a teacher walking towards him. He stops and waits for her to reach him. Hello young man, do you happen to know Wakamoto Shingo and Anzu Ryoji? She asks. Yeah, why? He answers. Well, we have an exam coming up and Kurihara usually picks up their work for them but hasn't shown up yet. I went looking for her, but knowing that all the men live in the same building I figured you'd see him. This is a review sheet for the exam, do you think you could deliver this to them? Please? She asks. Of course. He says smiling, this is good. Now I'll be able to have a word with Shingo. Great, thank you. She says as she walks off. He continues walking and heads to his room. He needed to get changed and do his homework before heading to the prison. He gets his homework done rather quickly before looking at the sheets he's supposed to turn in. Knowing that he probably won't be able to talk to Shingo in private, he gets his pencil, turns one of the pages over and begins writing a message. He'll personally hand them to the boys so he knows Kurihara won't be able to intercept them. Once done, he puts his shoes on and heads out. As he nears the building, he hears a commotion on the other side. They're probably doing manual labor. He thinks. As he walks around to the back, he notices that the entire USC is standing in front of the prisoners and can see Maiko holding something in her hand, showing it to Gakuto. He stays close enough so he can hear, but far enough to not get attention to himself yet. He hears Maiko start talking. Gakuto, you have two options. Confess to aiding Kayashi escape and add another month to your sentence and spare your figurines. Or deny and I'll break them right here. What's it going to be? She asks, holding the figurine forward. Naruto is interested in what he will do. He heard from Kayashi about how rare those figures were and how much he wanted them. Gakuto reaches forward and holds the figures. He then shocked everyone by raising it up and smashing it on the ground. Yes, I did it. I helped Kayashi Dono escape. I'm sorry for pushing you away with everyone else, Kayashi Dono. Gakuto said as he cried. Naruto couldn't help but gain a bit of respect for Gakuto. He really was one of those near impossible to find friends. Deciding it's the best time to make himself known, he walks up to them. Yo. Naruto. What are you doing here? Asks Kayashi. I was told to deliver these to Shingo and Andre. You guys have a test coming up and Kurihara-san didn't pick these up, so I was asked instead. He says, handing the papers to the boys, making sure the back wasn't visible. Oh, thank you. I was worried that I wouldn't be passing it since I didn't know what to study for. Says Andre. Yeah, thanks bro. Says Shingo as he extends a fist for a bump. Yes, well, you boys will have another month added to your sentence. This counts as strike number 2 for you. One more and you will be expelled from the school. Begins Mary. Let's take them back to their cells and go to the office, there's something we need to discuss. Good day Namikaze-san. She said, dismissing him. He nods and flashes a quick smile at Maiko before heading out. Once the boys were put in the cell, Shingo decided to look over the review sheet. He had nothing better to do, why not study? He checked the back praying that it wasn't double-sided. It wasn't, but he did find a note addressed to him. Be very careful with that girl you're seeing. Something isn't right about her. Meet me at the convenience store near the arcade at 4. Namikaze Naruto. P.S. Erase this after you read it. Shingo paled and looked around to make sure none of the guys had noticed. Crap, Naruto knows that I'm going out. He wouldn't rat me out to the guys, would he? That would make me look like a hypocrite, not that they'd be wrong but still. After all the crap I'm giving Kayashi, I'm basically doing the same thing. Damn. In the underground student council office, Mary was having a cup of tea and was seated alongside Hana. Maiko meanwhile was standing in front of them. She swallowed a lump in her throat and couldn't help but sweat. President. Maiko begins but couldn't finish as Mary cut her off. Vice President. You allowed me to eat something that you got off of the boys' bathroom floor. It's time for your punishment. She says. Hana looks down, finding her cup of tea very interesting at the moment. You're suspended from being a member of the USC for the next week. But President, she once again didn't finish. If you wouldn't mind exiting the room, we have some business to discuss. Finishes Mary. Maiko closes her eyes, nods, and leaves the room. A moment later Hana speaks up. I thought you were going to give her the small uniform. She says. Originally I was planning to, however, I changed my mind after thinking it over. Mary says calmly, hoping Hana buys her lie. She didn't. Even though she didn't say anything, Hana knew that Mary was afraid. She was afraid of what Naruto would do when he found out that she forced her to wear the small uniform. Now onto another thing, we'll have to deal with Namikaze soon. We're almost done with the boys, but we need a way to get rid of him as well. How do you suppose we do that? It's not like we can force him to do anything, he's smart, he'll find a way around whatever we throw at him. And he's proven he's not afraid to blackmail you if needed. Hana says. There has to be something we can use against him. He can't be perfect. I'm going to check his room personally and see if I can find anything that we can use. Mary says, shocking Hana. Are you sure that's a good idea? What if you're caught? That would just make things worse. I know, but I'm getting desperate. It would be much easier if he were just a perverted idiot. Mary says. Hana had a bad feeling about this. She knows this will come back to bite them in the asses. Naruto had returned to his room. He had given the paper to Shingo, now it was time to wait until it was time to go. First he'd ask how he was getting out and then he'd talk to him about that girl. 2 hours later Naruto was near the convenience store. He had been there for about 10 minutes now. He hoped Shingo would show up, otherwise he wouldn't get another opportunity. Maiko had also texted him earlier asking if she could go over to his room later. Of course he said yes. He was broken out of his musings as he heard footsteps nearing. Looking over he saw Shingo in his school uniform heading his way. Yo Shingo, how did you manage to get out? Naruto asks. He sees him hesitate as if debating whether to tell him or not. He's not just going to give up that information. Smart. Probably thinks I'd rat him out or something. Fine, forget that, you know that girl you saw yesterday? Yeah, what about her? Asks a confused Shingo. Did she seem strange to you in any way? No, not really. We had a good time. He says and gets a dreamy look on his face as he starts fantasizing about the girl. Snap out of it. Naruto says, snapping his fingers in his face a few times. Anyway, I saw that after you left, her smile completely vanished. She immediately made a call to someone while keeping her eye on you until you were out of sight. Maybe she had to call her mom or something. Shingo didn't want to believe that the girl he met was up to something. She couldn't be. Hey, sorry to cut this short bro, but I'm meeting Anzu in a couple minutes. I gotta go. He says as he walks away. I'll talk to you about this some other time. He says. Not trusting his word, Naruto waits for a bit before stealthily following him. He knows that girl is up to something. That was just too suspicious for his liking. He watched them in the arcade again and noticed that she was more forward with her flirting. But the one thing that really had alarms ringing in his head was that she would try to fiddle with his watch every time she got close to him. Yeah, she's definitely up to something. After about an hour of recon he sees Shingo once again check his watch and say his goodbyes. And once again he saw her take her phone out and call someone. She stayed on the phone longer than last time. He saw her get her stuff and leave immediately afterward. That's strange. She wears the girl's uniform from our school. If she was just gonna leave right after, why didn't she leave with Shingo? They go to the same school after all. Deciding he'll think about it some other time, he too went back home. 2 hours later, back in his room, Naruto was still going over all of the information he had acquired. He knew that her name was Anzu because Shingo mentioned it, but nothing more. He was tempted to go looking for the girl himself and ask what was up, but that would make him look like some sort of stalker. He felt a buzz in his pockets and took out his phone. It was Maiko asking if she could go over now. "Yeah, feel free, I'm going to take a shower. Don't bother knocking, just walk in," he replied. He put his phone on the bed and walked into the shower. 10 minutes later she arrived wearing her nighttime wear, which was her pink shorts and her white tank top. She also brought a bag with her. "Hey Naruto." What are we? You never really asked me out, you know." The first thing that came out of his mouth was "we're probably parents because I didn't pull out." He chuckles at his own joke. She remembers that he came in her and elbows him in the stomach. "You're going to have to buy me a morning after pill for Kuming and me, idiot. I'm not on birth control. Let's hope it works and you don't get me pregnant or else your mom will be right to worry," she says. And a course through him at that moment. He didn't know she wasn't on birth control, he assumed since she didn't object that it was fine. Though he couldn't help the smile forming on his face at the thought that he came in her. He knew even though it was wrong he got some sort of satisfaction from it. Just to be on the safe side though he might get her birth control and buy some condoms for next time. "Yeah, I'll buy it for you, don't worry, I'll wake up early and buy it before classes start. And even if you do end up pregnant I'll stick with you, don't worry. And to answer your question. You are my girlfriend and I'm your boyfriend. End of story." She smiles and cuddles closer to him. He remains quiet and speaks up once more. "So why did you suddenly want to come over?" "Not that I mind." She stays quiet for a second before answering. "I was suspended from the USC for the next week. I don't want to talk about it. Let's just go to sleep," she says. "But we have classes tomorrow." She looks at him and raises an eyebrow. "And? What about your clothes and stuff? What do you think is in that bag I brought? It has my makeup and clothes for tomorrow. Now let me sleep," she says and turns around to lay down on his chest. He nods his head and wraps his arm around her and looks down to admire the view when he sees the red spot on the sheets. "I hope that blood doesn't seep into the mattress," he says before going to sleep as well. Naruto woke up to a sight that the 5 boys in prison could only dream of. Laying on his chest was, in his opinion, the most beautiful woman in the world. Maiko had her head laying on his chest, her head moving up and down, slowly matching his breathing. Looking down he noticed that sometime during the night they must have thrown the blanket off the bed as their naked bodies were cuddled together in plain sight. Naruto smiled at the sight and was filled with some self-pride as the memories of last night's activities came back to his mind. He had been her first and she his. Though with those memories came the realization that he had cum inside her when she wasn't on any type of contraceptive. He subtly as to not wake her reached over and grabbed his phone to check what time the store opened. Turns out it was closed until 10 a.m. and it was currently 6 in the morning, meaning it was almost time for class. He gently shook her trying to wake her up but had no luck. She stirred a bit but other than that continued sleeping. Chuckling softly at the reaction he tries once more a little harder this time and she finally opened her eyes and took a moment to remember where she was. "What time is it?" she asks rubbing her eyes and getting her glasses which she had removed before actually going to sleep. "It's about 6 in the morning." She nods and stands up. He watches her naked form go over to her bag and pull out her school clothes. She looks over at him and says, "I'm going to take a shower. I'm feeling sticky down here." She says the last part shooting him a small glare. "Don't forget to get the pill, I'm not ready to have a kid and neither are you," she says to him as she stuffs her old clothes in his closet. "Don't worry, I'll get it. The store's still closed right now, but I'll go right after school. Besides the pill works up to 5 days after so we're still okay. Anyways, I need a shower too, mind if I join you?" he asks smiling innocently. She turns away and walks to the bathroom. "No, I have a feeling we wouldn't really be taking a shower if you joined in. You take one after, if you're good maybe we can bathe later," she says looking back at him and closes the door. Deciding to lay back for another few minutes he lets his mind wander. The image of a specific brown-haired girl enters his mind and he narrows his eyes. That girl Shingo has been hanging out with, Anzu. He needs to do something about her. Something just isn't right with her behavior. The phone calls, the attitude change, the tinkering with his watch when he was distracted, something doesn't add up. Deciding to worry about it later he gets his clothes ready for when Maiko comes out. An hour later both are dressed and heading out to their homeroom. 5 minutes later Mary walks towards the now empty room. She proceeded to use a copy of the key to the door to get inside. She had to create a convincing story about how Naruto had lost his room key and how she had told him that she would take care of it. She was relieved when the chairman bought it and handed her the key. There was no going back now, turning the key she opened the door and walked in. Had she checked her surroundings better she would have noticed someone else at the end of the hall, recording everything she was doing with a cell phone. Once the person was done they pocketed the phone and walked away soon after. Naruto's school day was pretty uneventful. Being the only guy in all of his classes didn't leave him much to do. There were just some things that a guy could only talk about with other guys. When lunch came around he walked into the cafeteria looking to see if he could find Maiko, but had no such luck. Even though he didn't find her he did see someone else. Anzu was walking through the crowd in the direction of the exit. This was his chance. At that moment he remembered an app he had on his phone and a brilliant plan developed in his mind. Leaving the lunch line, he quickly went after her, though not quickly enough as to draw any attention to himself. Being a guy already got him enough of that. He saw her turn a corner and stop in front of a window that overlooked the field of the school. It also had a good view of the building where the prison was located. That still amazed him. The government either didn't know or they really allowed corporal punishment in the form of a prison in school. Remembering his plan, he unlocked his phone and touched the app. He waited for it to open up and work its magic. It began counting down from 10. When it hit number 2 he walked in her direction, though he wasn't looking at her. Finally, his phone rang. He played his part and looked down as if to check who it was. Smiling he ended the app and pretended to answer the phone. The whole time he did this he did not stop walking. "Hey Shingo, what's up?" He asked no one. He didn't look, but he knew he had Anzu's attention. This was good. "Yeah, for sure, meet me in 10 minutes at fence near the end of the track and we'll go to that burger place I was telling you about." "Alright, cool, I'll see you in a little bit." He pocketed the phone and turned a corner. He didn't take any more steps and hid. It didn't take long for him to hear footsteps quickly heading in the opposite direction. Taking a peek, he saw her retreating. Not having much time, he quickly headed to the one place that had a good view of the end of the track. The boys' bathroom. Jogging there he ran inside and managed to use one of the toilets to get a boost to see out of the little window near the top of the room. He waited about 7 minutes before he saw something that confirmed his suspicions about Anzu. Han arrived at the scene and was looking around, presumably for Shingo as he should still be in prison. He watched her for about 15 minutes before she gave up and walked away, most likely to report to Kurihara. So Anzu is a subordinate of the USC president, huh? He mused to himself. Now it all made sense, all of the calls and changes in attitude when Shingo would leave made sense now. The only question now was what to do with that information. Looking at his phone once more he saw he still had about 15 minutes of lunch left and headed back to the cafeteria. Once more he couldn't find Maiko, so he decided to just go get himself a quick bite. Betting his food, he sat at a random table which was occupied by some girls. There was one seat at the end so he took it. As he ate he noticed that the girls at the table would keep looking at him, but none of them actually said anything to him or even made any indication that they were going to. "They're probably afraid I'm like the other 5 here," he reasoned with himself. The real reason, however, was because word had gotten around the school that Maiko had laid claim on him. Ever since she kissed him in front of that one girl when they went to his house, the girls of the school knew he was off limits. None of them wanted to be on her bad side. The bell rang soon and everyone returned to their classrooms to continue the day, which to no surprise was just as boring as the beginning. Once the final class was finished he got a text from Maiko. "Hey, I'll meet you later. I've got a lot of homework." Maiko? Well, he would have liked to see her now. He understood and used this time to go to the store. When he got to the store he headed to the pharmacy section and looked for the Plan B or morning after pill. He found it and picked it up. His eyes also caught sight of a circular box with plenty of pills in them. He knew what these were. Birth control pills for the entire month. Looking at the price tag his eyes widened as he saw the price. 5,000 yen. Roughly $50. For that much money he actually contemplated the thought of just risking it without it. In the end rationality won out and he bought those too. On the bright side he wouldn't need a condom now, so there was a happy thought. Paying the cashier who gave him a knowing look and a thumbs up he left and headed back to his dorm. He continued walking just staring straight ahead still wondering how to help Shingo out and how to stop whatever Kurihara was doing. His phone chimed indicating he had gotten a text message. It was from Rissa. "Hey, just thought I'd let you know I'll be in school in about 3 days. The paperwork has gone through and I'm just waiting for the confirmation now. Rissa." Naruto replied with "That's great, we'll have fun, there's someone I really want you to meet." "Well, I have to go now, I just wanted to let you know that I'll be seeing you soon." Saying his goodbye, he put the phone away once more. Meanwhile back at school. "Unfortunately I didn't find anything in Namikaze-san's room that could be used against him," said Mary angrily. She had taken a big risk going into his room and had nothing to show for it. It was just a typical boy's room. "In any case, what should we do about Anzu?" asked Hana, moving away from the room topic for the moment. "She said he was talking with Shingo on the phone, but no one was there when I checked." Mary stays quiet as she goes over what Hana had told her earlier. Anzu had heard Namikaze talking with Shingo, but no one was found at their rendezvous point. He wasn't stupid like the other 5. There was only one explanation as to why no one was there. He knows. He purposely made Anzu hear him talking to someone, making her believe it was Shingo. He then didn't show up, most likely watching from somewhere to see if Anzu would be there, and instead must have seen you. Which by default means he knows that she's with us. Mary deduced. So should we stop the plan with Shingo? Hana asks. If Naruto knew about this, then chances are he would confront them sooner or later, and he's proven that he won't hesitate using blackmail to win. No, Anzu has Shingo wrapped around her finger. He won't believe anything someone tells him. We'll just need to keep Namikaze-san busy while she works on Shingo. Though it'll be a lot harder without the vice president here to help us. Hana nods and agrees with Mary's plan, though she doesn't have a good feeling that it'll go that smoothly. A few hours later, Naruto was back in his room playing Battlefield Online on PS4. He was currently dominating until he got a text message. He briefly looked over at the phone, contemplating whether to check or continue his game. He ended up checking. It was a good thing too, because it was a text from Maiko wondering if he was in his room and if she could go over. He responded positively and told her to come over if she wanted. Once he finished the message, he went back to his game. No more than 5 minutes must have passed when there was a knock on the door. He quickly checked his phone for the time. Damn, that was fast. He says to himself as he puts his controller down and heads to the door. When he opened the door, it wasn't Maiko, but Kate from his class instead. Hey Kate. You need something? He asked, wondering exactly what she was doing here. Not exactly. She says as she reaches into her pocket and pulls out a small rectangular object. However, I think you may be interested in seeing this. She says, handing him a flash drive. He took it from her hand and took a closer look at it. Before he could say anything else, she started walking away, though not without some last parting words. Take a look at that when you have some free time. Good night. She says and left. As he watched her walk down the hall, he noticed Maiko coming towards him, only breaking contact briefly to give a hard stare to Kate, who only smiled back and didn't say anything. He moved away from the door in order to let his girlfriend inside. What was Kate doing here? She asked as she sat on the bed. Deciding not to tell her about the flash drive until he knew what was in it, he decided to lie. She just came by to give me back one of my homework pages that I forgot in class. She said it fell once I put my stuff away and landed under her desk. Oh yeah, I went to the store after school today. He said, effectively changing the topic. He went over to his backpack and lifted it up, revealing the bag from the store. He handed her the whole bag and sat down. She opens it and sees the morning after pill, a little late, but at least she had it now. Looking at the badge, she noticed there was something else inside. She pulled out the circular container and raised an eyebrow at him. What? It's better than having to go for a new pill every time. He said happily. She rolls her eyes at him but still manages a small smile. He hands her a bottle of water and lets her take the pill. He felt better too, now he knew for certain there wouldn't be a small blonde-haired boy or girl running around in 9 months. Now that Maiko was here, there was no reason to be playing his video game, so he exited the game and closed the app. So what do you want to do? He asked her. She took a look at the TV. I've been doing homework all day, I need a break. Let's watch some movies. She said and made herself comfortable on his bed, not that he minded. Opening up the Netflix app, they sorted through their selection until they found the one they wanted. It was one about a boy who had visions of a monster coming to kill him and his mom. Let it be known that Maiko was very fond of horror movies. It was pretty late at night when the movie finished, and she decided that she would just be spending the night again. Because it was more convenient, not because she was afraid to walk back at this time of night. They ended the night with another night of sexy time. Now with the birth control for the month, they had nothing to worry about. He woke up at around 2 in the morning, having the need to use the restroom. He carefully got out of bed, not wanting to wake his silver-haired beauty. The light from the bathroom slowly but surely helped him lose his sleepiness. By the time he was out, he didn't think he could go back to sleep as fast as he'd like. Then he remembered the flash drive. Maiko was asleep and he had nothing better to do at 2 in the morning, so why not look at it now? Grabbing his laptop, he went to his pants and pulled out the stick. He had to turn the brightness down on his computer as it was way too bright for his sensitive eyes at this time of night. It only took a minute for the device to be detected by the computer. Clicking on the flash drive, he noticed there was only one video clip in the entire device. He grabbed a pair of headphones in case the video was loud and double-clicked to start it. He noticed that this person seemed to be filming in a hallway. That hallway actually looks pretty familiar, he thought to himself. Then he saw the familiar figure of the president of the USC heading into a room. He paused the video and leaned in a little closer. That was his room. His eyes narrowed as he realized that it was indeed his room. Kurihara had actually broken into his room. What he really found suspicious was that she used a key to get in, not a lockpick or even kicking the door, but a key. He saw the camera hurry to follow and only peek through the door, thought they made sure to follow all of Kurihara's movements. He saw her go through his drawers, under his bed, and in his bathroom. Luckily she didn't go into the closet or she would have seen Maiko's clothes. The camera left the room and went back the way they came. The video ended. Naruto was pissed. Kurihara actually broke into his room and looked through his stuff. At some point he found that his hand had begun stroking his girlfriend's hair. He took a deep breath and calmed down, he knew sleep wouldn't come easy now. He was thankful that Kate had given him this, but now he had questions. He had no doubt that Kate had recorded this, otherwise how would she have this? Something he wondered was why would she give this to him? What was in it for her? I'll think about that later, right now I need to know what I'm going to do about Kurihara. This will definitely be a good trump card in case she tries anything. Breaking into someone's room will definitely get her thrown into her own prison. He thinks. It took about an hour, but sleep finally took him again. One thing was certain, tomorrow would be a bad day for Mary Kurihara. Naruto woke up the next morning and he was not in the best of moods. What he saw on that video had his head going in so many directions. It seemed like the only thing he could think of when he tried to sleep was that video. He thought to himself, okay, what the hell should I do? Let's go through the options. He began visualizing an imaginary checklist in his mind as he went along. I could let the chairman know and almost definitely get her locked up. She'd be with the boys and that would destroy her. I could save that information as a bargaining chip in case I ever need to blackmail her into something. Perhaps use that as incentive to have her treat the guys better. Or I could just go straight up to her and ask her what the hell she thought she was doing. As soon as he finished his option something else popped into mind. An image of Kate. What did she get out of all of this? He was pretty sure that she didn't give him the video out of the goodness of her heart. He couldn't think on the matter any longer as Maiko began to stir in his arms, signifying that she was waking up. He turns his head to face her as she opens her eyes and takes a second to wipe her eyes. He smiles, no matter how many times he's seen it he never gets tired of it. She rolls over and picks up her glasses, then puts them on before checking her phone. Most likely checking what time it was. He peeked over her shoulder and saw that it was 6:30 in the morning. He was contemplating telling her what he saw but ultimately decided against it. Morning, he said as she turned back to him. He gave her a quick peck. How'd you sleep? Well. I'd be sleeping even better if we didn't have class today. I don't want to move from here but we have to. She says as she sits up. Come on, it's time to get ready for class. He agrees, although begrudgingly as he didn't feel like getting out of bed. It took them 15 minutes to get ready, which honestly surprised Naruto as he didn't know women could get ready in anything less than an hour. Once they were out the door they began walking to their homeroom. It was quiet along the way. During this time Naruto remembered that he had confirmation that Anzu was affiliated with the underground student council. He would have to deal with that. He couldn't tell Shingo, he's far too wrapped around her finger to believe anything he'd tell him. Throughout the day he couldn't concentrate on his classes. Since he sat towards the back he would just move his hand on the notebook anytime the teacher looked. If she'd have looked closely she'd notice he didn't even have a pencil in hand. The only thing he could think of was the fact that Kurihara had grown bold enough to actually break into his room and go snooping. Now what could she believe he'd be hiding that she actually thought, hey, why not break into his room and go through his stuff? It didn't make any sense. Naruto decided right then and there that he'd confront her about it later. But first he'd have to make copies of that video and send them to his different email addresses and copy them onto different flash drives. Didn't want to risk somehow losing the evidence or someone stealing it from him. This was his bargaining chip. School went by agonizingly slow, though he did manage to make the copies of the video. During the time that one of his classes required using the computer lab, he pulled out the flash drive that Kate had given him and began making copies. He sent them to emails, his own social media inboxes, and then to his 2 personal flash drives. He was ready. Once the school day ended he quickly took his phone out and sent a quick text to Maiko. Hey, I just remembered I have something to do right now, you want to meet up later at my dorm? He sent it. He knew that she was still suspended from the USC, so this would be the perfect time to go see Kurihara. As he walked to her office room he ran different scenarios on how to go about confronting her. In the end he decided he'd just wing it like he did when he went up to her the first time. He stood at the front of the door and knocked 3 times. There was a moment of silence. Enter. For a moment he considered just walking in since Kurihara seemed to not have any trouble doing just that, but he discarded that train of thought. He walked in and noticed that Kurihara was sitting on the couch drinking tea, one leg crossed over the other. Across from her was Midorikawa Hana also drinking tea. Or at least she was until he walked in. She looked a bit worried about something. That bad feeling she had been worried about had returned full force. Hana kept her eyes on him and followed him as he walked around to the couch to take a seat right next to her. He paid her no mind as his attention was solely on the president. "Hello Kurihara, how are you doing?" He asked kindly, though it didn't take a genius to know that it wasn't genuine kindness. Her eyes narrow as she takes in his question, she was now on guard. Namikaze never made small talk with her. "I'm doing fine, thank you for asking, how about yourself?" She replies, trying to figure out what his game was. "I'm doing good too. My grades are up and I've been spending a lot of time with Michael lately, that's always fun." He replies, he wasn't going to tell her what kind of fun. "I'm glad. Though I'm curious, is there something you need or did you just come here to make small talk with me?" She asks as politely as she could muster. She knew she had fucked up the moment a smile broke out on his face. "Actually, I was just wondering, what have you been up to lately?" Both her and Hana's blood ran cold as soon as the moment he finished the sentence. Did he know? No. There's no way he could know. She kept her calm facade on the outside, but Hana was not so lucky, she had a strong feeling he knew. "My personal life is none of your concern, Namikaze-san. Now unless there's something else you need, I have things to do," she said, trying to wrap up this conversation before things get out of hand. "Well, you see, here's the thing. Normally you'd be correct, your life is none of my business. However, the moment something you do involves me, it becomes my business." Naruto finished, his fake smile completely gone, looking at Mary dead in the eyes. Shit. He knows. Both women in the room knew that he knew, so it was time to do the honest and responsible thing, so she played dumb and pretended not to know what he was talking about. "I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about, Namikaze-san. Nothing I've done concerns you in any way, shape or form," she says as she takes another sip of her drink. Though to be honest, it was to calm her nerves. She knew she had to be very careful here. "Tell me, did you find what you were looking for in my room?" he questions. He sees her open her mouth to try and defend herself, but he continues on. "You see what I have here?" he questions as he pulls out his phone. He quickly presses a few things on his touch screen and a video file opened up. "Is that not you breaking into my room and going through all my stuff? I don't recall giving you any permission to do so." "Where did you get that?" she asks, losing some of her composure. She couldn't believe that she had been caught. She was sure she was along, but clearly she was wrong. "It doesn't matter where I got this from. The only thing that matters is that I have evidence of you breaking into my room and going through my stuff." He then points to a paused part of the video. "Look, you even used a key to get in, you didn't pick the lock, no. You used a key. I have half a mind to go to the chairman about this. As a matter of fact, I think I will." He stands up and heads back to the door when he hears Kurihara calling out to him. "Wait." He hears. Turning his attention back to her, he notices her face is shadowed by her hair since she's looking down. "What do you want for your silence?" she asks in a defeated tone of voice. "I want you to call Anzu off. I don't know what you guys are planning by using her to get to Shingo, but it stops now. Just know that if the guys suddenly get expelled or have longer sentences for no reason whatsoever, I'll go straight to the chairman. Believe me, I'm certain that this is grounds for prison time," he says. She looks up at his with some defiance still in her eyes, but agrees nonetheless. He extends his hand out toward her, the key. She didn't need to be told what key he was taking about, and pulls out the spare key she had made from her bra. "Well, now that we have that all sorted out, I'll be leaving. Pleasure talking to you once more," he says and exits the room. Mission accomplished. The two women sit in silence for a handful of minutes, no sounds but the birds chirping and the occasional conversation piece from some girls walking by the room. After 5 minutes, Hana decides to break the silence. "I don't want to be the person who says I told you so, but I told you so," Hana says, glancing at Mary. She didn't reply as she was too lost in her own thoughts. "How did he find out?" "I went moments after he left for class. There shouldn't have been anyone in that part of the building at that time. The question now is who filmed it." She thinks to herself, feeling angry that she had been so careless. "Hana, call Anzu off before it's too late. We're going to have to change up our plans for the time being," ordered Mary. Hana did as told and tried to get in contact with the girl. This didn't sit well with Mary. She may have lost this battle, but it was only one. She would win the war, and in the end this school will go back to being all girls as it should have stayed. Men can't be trusted. Meanwhile, as Naruto was walking back to his room, he was in a pretty good mood. He had once again beaten Kurihara at her own game. He'd be lying if he said that he didn't feel some sense of victory over time he beat her in one of these games. Though this time he wouldn't have been able to had it not been for Kate. There it was again, Kate. The girl obviously knew something or wanted something from him if she was so willing to give him that video. He doubted she gave it to him out of the goodness of her heart. No one ever did. "Oh well, I'll deal with her when the time comes," he said to himself as he continued walking. Pulling out his phone, he texted his girlfriend. "Hey, I'm free for the rest of the day, you want to come over?" "I'd love to, but I have a few assignments to finish," she replies. "You can finish them here. I have a few I have to do too, so we'll help each other out." he sends back. It took a minute, but she agreed to come by. Minutes later the two are in his room in silence as each does their respective assignments. Though throughout the time they were doing this Naruto would occasionally use his phone to check his social media platforms to relieve his boredom. Halfway through bullshitting an answer about some war Naruto asks a question that just entered his mind. "Hey Maiko," he calls. She glances at him briefly letting him know he has her attention but continues doing her work. "How are you doing since you're not a member of the USC for now?" She actually stops her work for a second to think about the answer. "There's times where it gets boring. However, anytime I find myself getting bored I come here and you help me alleviate that boredom," she replies. Naruto smiles at her answer and nods. It only took him 10 more minutes to finish his work. He had a high enough grade to where this assignment wouldn't hinder him too much. With that being said he knew he had completely messed up that assignment but he was just happy to have it done. He surfed the web for 20 more minutes before the sounds of papers being put away caught his attention. It seemed his silver-haired lover had finally finished her work as well. "Finally," she said, rotating her wrist. "I thought I'd never finish that." "I'm surprised you finished as quickly as you did," she tells him. He laughed nervously as he agreed with her. "Yeah, I really understood the material," he lied. "Anyways, what do you want to do?" he asked. "After all that work let's put on a movie, I don't want to think about any more work," she said and got comfortable on his bed. "Sounds good." He scrolled through the options that were available to them before they stopped on some movie about a living scarecrow that would kill people every 23 years. They made it through half the movie before they settled into their new routine. Ever since that first time a couple days ago they had gone at it anytime the moment allowed them. Now with the plan B and the birth control pills they weren't too worried about anything. The only thing Naruto was worried about was one day finding the packet and having it look like an incomplete Connect 4 game. Their new position was Naruto sitting up, back up against the head of the bed while Maiko was straddling him. They were in the middle of a heated makeout session and were about to take it a step further as the blonde unclasped her bra. It hits the floor and he was about to go to town on those globes when his phone rings. They separate to catch their breath and Maiko comments. "You know usually it's my phone that interrupts us." Naruto reaches over to his phone and notices that he's got a message from an unsaved number. He glances really quick and it reads. "Meet me tonight at 11 p.m. behind the boys' prison building. Take me a Kate." Kate, how did she get my number? He asks himself as he puts the phone down. "Who was it?" Maiko asks. "Not sure, I don't think that message was for me. Probably a wrong number," he says. He didn't want to tell her about it yet. But that being settled for the time being the two resumed where they had left off. The two finished their activities about 2 hours later, the day had come and gone. Once done they actually decided to finish the movie since it wasn't half bad. By the time the movie was over Maiko was already asleep. No doubt tired not only from the school day but from riding the Naruto Express. Chuckling at his own joke he checked the time and saw that it was almost 11. He took one look at Maiko to make sure she really was asleep and got dressed. Nothing special, just black jeans and a black shirt. This way he'd at least blend in with the dark in case anyone was out patrolling the area. He left the room as quietly as he could and headed out to the prison. It was cold outside so he hoped this wouldn't take too long. He could see the building getting closer so he jogged lightly to get there faster. He was glad to see that the orange-haired girl was already there. "Hello Namikaze-san," she greeted as if they weren't out in the freezing cold. "Glad you could make it." "Hello Kate, so why did you want to meet this late at night?" he asks getting to the point. "In the day it would attract too much attention, that and I wouldn't want your girlfriend to get the wrong idea if we were seen together," she says. He was about to comment that being caught now would be 10 times worse, but held his tongue. "Anyways, you're probably wondering why I wanted to meet at all." At his nod she continued. "In all honesty I did it because I could be in need of your help in the coming days. So think of it as me asking for an IOU in return for showing you what Mary had done." "That's all you want? An IOU?" Naruto asked. It seemed too simple, but he wasn't going to be complaining. She nods her head. "Yup, I may need your help one day and I hope you can help me when the time comes," she says. He thinks about it and figures it's a small price to pay. "If it's within my abilities fine, I'll help you out once whenever you need it. Remember, only if it's within my ability to do so," he says. "Great, I'll see you soon," she says and heads out. He didn't know whether he should be pissed that he had to come all the way out here for an IOU or happy that it was just a small price. Either way he checked the time and it had only been about 20 minutes. He figured he should head to the store really quick to buy some snacks. That was if Maiko was up, he could say he got hungry and needed something to munch on. The next day was boring. He had made it back to his room with no problems and she was still asleep so he had no need to explain where he was. When the school day finally ended he and Maiko went straight to his room as they had no work to do today. Hey, I'm kind of in the mood for some teriyaki. I'm gonna go get some from this place down the street. You want to come with? He asks her. No, I'll wait for you here and relax for a little. She said as she laid down. He was about to reply when a knock was heard at the door. You're expecting company? She says as she sits up. He was just as confused as she was. No, besides you're the only one who comes to visit. He opened the door was his eyes widened as he recognized the person on the other side. Rissa? What are you doing here? How did you know where I was? He asked rapidly. Rissa is of average height and slim with a small bust and also has blue eyes and hair and a boy cut. She has thin eyebrows and lips and wears dark eyeliner that gives her a hawkish and tough appearance. She's currently wearing the standard women's uniform. Today was my first day. When I arrived I asked the chairman if he knew where you were and he told me where to find you. Mind if I come in? She asked. He nods and steps aside. Hey, I have to run and get some food real quick, but before I leave. Rissa, this is my girlfriend Shiraki Maiko. Maiko, this is Betu. Rissa, she was my best friend in my other school after we had to move. I'll be back quickly. Why don't you two get to know each other in the meantime? Give me 10 minutes. With that he bolted out the door and his footsteps could be heard getting further in the distance. Back in the room the two women just stared at each other. Neither one being able to read the other. There was one thing going through the minds of both women thought. I don't like this girl. Not a sound was made by the two women in the room as they stared each other down. Rissa broke the stare down and walked over to Naruto's desk and put her bag down before taking a seat on his chair and returning her gaze to the silver-haired big-breasted woman. Likewise Maiko returned the stare, sizing her up as she did so. The one thing that stood out to her about this girl was her distinct look. She wore the standard girl's uniform, though she left the top two buttons undone and her jacket open. That itself was no big deal, but combined with the fierce look in her eyes, gave her a look that screamed delinquent. It was the kind she'd seen many boys back in middle school fawn over. So you're dating Naruto? Though it was a question she could tell it was more of a statement. Maiko also noted that she didn't refer to him as Namikaze, but rather by his first name, letting her know they were really close. Yes, for a little while now. The vice president replied. So how exactly do you know Naruto? She figured if the woman was going to try and make an effort to speak to her, she may as well reciprocate. For Naruto's sake if nothing else. I didn't have too many friends in middle school. According to some of my teachers I looked too intimidating to approach. She began. Then one day we got a new transfer student in my class and he decided to make friends with me. Regardless of what the other students would tell him about me. I found out we had similar interests and he didn't mind my bad reputation. He quickly became my best friend. We would hang out all the time. She finished with a smile on her face. Well, a normal man wouldn't notice anything strange, women were different. Maiko could see the look of longing that came with the smile as she talked about her boyfriend. This girl has feelings for Naruto, she thought to herself. Maiko opened her mouth to continue but stopped. Both girls turned their heads to the door as the sound of fast footsteps was getting closer. Seconds later the blonde walked in holding 3 small styrofoam boxes in his hands. He softly kicked the door closed with his heel and placed the food down. I hope you haven't eaten yet, Rissa. I got teriyaki for all of us. He announced as he fished out 3 cans of soda from his small fridge. I was going to after leaving, but this will save me some money. Thanks. Her friend smiles and opens his box before beginning to scarf down his food. So he tried to speak. He stopped and swallowed his food before continuing. Have they asked you to join any clubs yet? She nodded as she took a bite of her food. I haven't joined any yet, but my teacher already gave me a list of the available clubs to join. Are you in one? She asked. He shook his head negative. Nah, due to some complications I can't join a club at the moment. Apparently no girls want me in their club due to what the other 5 did to get locked up, he thought to himself. The 3 proceeded to eat their food while continuing to catch up in the case of Naruto and Rissa. The two would talk about things that happened back in their middle school, while Maiko simply listened. The blonde noticed that his girlfriend was more reserved but chalked it up to the fact that they had only just met. He was confident though that with enough time the two would eventually open up to each other and become good friends. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. The next few days passed by relatively quickly. He found himself hanging out with both Rissa and Maiko and found it kind of strange that when they were together they'd be more quiet as opposed to when they'd hang out individually. Given it was only a few days though he thought nothing of it. Friday had finally come. He'd had an exam in his last class and was glad the weekend was here. That normally would put him in a good mood but not right now. He'd gotten a text from Maiko saying that she wasn't going to be able to see him until later today as she had to meet with a group of girls for a project they had to do. Similarly, Rissa couldn't meet today either as she said she'd found a possible club to join and was going to check it out today. Looks like it's just me today. he said to himself as he put his phone down. He stared at the ceiling for a minute before a thought came to him. Wait. He thought as he sat up. The chairman said the guys have free hours on the weekends unless he says otherwise. He got off his bed and changed into some black jeans and a dark blue t-shirt. He was actually pretty hopeful everything went well. Being around women was cool and all, but he needed some guy time. Giving himself a quick pat down, he made sure he had everything and headed out to the prison. The walk to the pen didn't take too long, and to his surprise Midorikawa didn't even try and stop him from entering. A smart move on her part considering the leverage he had on Kurihara. Walking down the dark corridors he made out the sounds of a chair moving and laughter from up ahead. Upon reaching their cell he noticed the boys were playing some kind of card game. Or at least 3 of them were. Gakuto, Shingo, Joe, and Kayashi were playing cards. What really caught his attention however was Andre. See, he wasn't enjoying himself like the others. No. He was off in the corner of the cell in a fetal position, slowly rocking and occasionally shaking. "Ah, Naruto dono, good to see you. Is there something we can help you with?" Gakuto asked, being the first one to see him. Naruto opened his mouth but stopped when a groan came from Andre. His eye darted between the group and the sick boy. Is he alright?" He pointed at the big-boned young man. The blonde notices Shingo and Kayashi's eyes widen and a look of panic appear on their face. The 2 boys scoot closer together and talk in a hushed tone that they thought wouldn't be heard. "What do we tell him?" Shingo asked, running a hand through his hair. "We can't tell him the truth." Naruto raised an eyebrow. "I'm thinking, hold on." Kayashi whispered. "You know I can still hear you guys, right?" Naruto questioned but was ignored as they continued discussing. His attention was then set on Joe, who began coughing hard enough for some blood to spill, which he noticed none of the guys seemed to be bothered by. Naruto shook his head. "Damn, this place messed these guys up." "Naruto don't know, I'm sorry to say that Andre isn't doing too good at the moment," Gakuto answered. The blonde chortled. "Yeah, no shit. Stevie Wonder could see that. What's wrong with him?" Gakuto coughed into his hand as he tried to figure out how he was going to word this. "He's having a withdrawal episode." Naruto's eyebrows raised upon hearing that. "Withdrawal from what? He doesn't look like a smoker to me." Shingo took it from there. "The thing is, he's kind of a masochist." That was a bit weird in his opinion, but he figured to each his own. Who was he to judge him, but it still didn't explain the situation. He was usually beaten by the vice president, but she hasn't shown up for a while, and now he's having withdrawal. This was new. Never in his life did he think he'd encounter someone in this position because they weren't getting beaten. Naruto looked to see Kayashi and Shingo looking at him, gauging his reaction. Both starting to sweat. Seeing as he hadn't responded, Shingo added, "She just beat him out of spite, I promise you. She didn't even know he was a masochist." Everything finally clicked. They were afraid he'd do something to Andre for seemingly getting off by being beaten by his girlfriend. Taking a deep breath he responded. "You guys don't need to worry, I'm not upset about it. A little weirded out, sure, but not upset." The guys all let out a collective sigh of relief. Shingo was the first to speak soon after. "So what brings you to the prison?" "It's the weekend. You guys are entitled to a couple hours free these next 3 days. I figured we'd hang out. Don't get me wrong, I love being around Maiko and being surrounded by women, but I needed some time with the guys, you know." Kayashi's face brightened up as soon as he's told them about their rights. "Can we really leave?" It was kind of sad to see someone so excited about going outside. He still didn't know how having a prison here was legal. "Yeah, gimme a sec, I'll be right back." The boys watched his retreating form as he made a beeline towards where the warden usually spent her time. A couple minutes later 2 figures came back, one was their boy and the other was a rather displeased looking Hana. "You pigs have 5 hours. Not a minute longer. Your clothes are in the storage room, you know where it is." She growled out before leaving. Naruto motioned to the storage and the boys, minus Andre, zoomed in that direction, eager to get a taste of sweet freedom. In no less than 5 minutes did the guys come meet him outside. He watched with a smile on his face as the guys looked around with their arms wide open, taking it all in. He wasn't expecting Gakuto to come up to him and hug him with tears streaming down his face though. "Thank you, Naruto dono." He cried, "I don't know how I'll ever repay your kindness." Naruto patted his back awkwardly as some of the girls outside were starting to stare. "It's no big deal, don't worry about it." Gakuto let go and wiped his eyes and tried to get himself back together, seeing the discomfort he'd brought upon his friend. "We've been locked up pretty much since school started. It's a bigger deal than you may believe. We owe you one big time." Shingo told him as he gave him a half hug before patting his shoulder twice and letting go. "What do you guys say we go to a game center in Akiba?" Everyone minus Andre and Joe agreed. Joe said he was going to head to a pet store to see if they had an ant farm, while Andre was in no condition to go anywhere. "Looks like it's just us. You guys wanna head out now?" Naruto asked, seeing as they were dressed in their uniforms. "Do you mind if we change into normal clothing?" I don't want to go out in my uniform. Kayashi asked. He nodded and told them he'd wait for them at the front gate. 15 minutes later the three were back dressed in relatively normal clothing. They opted for jeans and different styled shirts. A gray button-up for Shingo, a blue short-sleeve button-up for Kayashi, and a white button-up for Gakuto. Looks kinda weird seeing them in anything but a prison uniform, Naruto thought to himself before they began walking towards the station. So how does it feel being out again? Amazing. Being able to go outside without having to worry about anything is great. Kayashi replied as he took a deep breath. Shingo nodded in agreement. Knowing that we're not gonna get beaten is even better. He added. The vice president's punishments were truly brutal. Gakuto added while unaware that he had begun to rub his cheek where he'd been whipped. At the mention of the blonde's girlfriend, Kayashi frowned as a thought came to him. While we're on the subject, how did you manage to get her to go out with you? He asked. I thought she hated men. Naruto smiled as he thought of her. We grew up together. Unfortunately I had to move away and we were only able to communicate through texts. I lucked out and found out she was in my class and we started catching up. One thing led to another and here we are. Shingo shook his head in amazement. You've got to teach me your ways. You've got some crazy game if you're leaving marks on her body like last time. The guys knew what he was talking about when they'd been interrupted and had to head to the prison at night when Maiko was wearing those small shorts and short shirt. Hearing the man talk about crazy game brought up a memory Naruto had almost forgotten about. A smile graced his face as he replayed the scene in his head. I think Kayashi would be able to help you more than I would. After all, he was getting it on with Midorikawa. All eyes turned to Kayashi, whose eyes had widened as he heard the blonde mention that incident. He didn't have time to deny as the blonde continued to tell the others about how he had apparently seduced a woman into giving him oral on the bathroom floor. Not only that, but then he broke out of prison shortly after to go on a date with someone else. Kayashi has game, not me. He explained with a pointed look. The guys turned their attention to the black-haired boy and let shit-eating grins appear on their faces. Gakuto knew about the date but had no idea his friend had been seducing one of their captors. Kayashi, you dog. Shingo told him while wrapping an arm around his friend's neck. The poor boy tried to explain that it was all a misunderstanding but the unfortunate positions of their bodies, but they weren't buying it. After about 15 minutes the boys made it to the Akiba Sega arcade and headed to the third floor. As Naruto was about to drop a coin into the machine, his wrist was stopped by Gakuto, who insisted that he allow him to pay for his first 5 games out of gratitude. They went from one-on-one fighting games to Gundam free-for-alls to the racing games in the bottom floor. Overall it was a blast. However, as they were heading to the top floor for more games, something caught the blonde's attention. The other 3 boys looked to where their friend had gone a few minutes later and saw him hunched over a machine. He had a hard look in his eyes and was wiping his hands on his jeans. He even had some sweat beginning to build up on his forehead. The blonde took a deep breath and pressed the only button on the machine. His head followed the small claw as it opened up as it went down before closing around a stuffed bunny in a school uniform. His heart raced as he watched the claw pick it up and move towards the corner of the machine and drop the bunny into the slot. Fuck yeah. He yelled as he reached into the machine to get his prize. Naruto, don't know you actually managed to win at a claw game. Gakuto commented, surprised as he knew these games were pretty much rigged. Yup. It only cost me about 2,000 yen, but I did it. Maiko is gonna love this. He said as he looked over the bunny before turning his attention back to them. You guys done? The guys nodded and headed out, but not before Naruto got a small bag for the bunny. Before heading back to the school, however, they decided to stop by a katsudan place nearby that was said to be good. As they sat at their table waiting for the food to be brought, the 3 inmates talked amongst themselves while Naruto occasionally gave his opinion on some things. Halfway through the meal he got a text from his girlfriend asking if he was free. He explained that he was having lunch with the fellas and would be back soon. The food ended up being better than expected and even cheaper than advertised. Overall turned out to be a good day. Half an hour later they were stuffed and decided it was time for the boys to go back to the pen. Once they reached the school the 4 said their goodbyes, but not before making plans for tomorrow. He reached his room in only a few minutes and wasn't surprised to see Maiko laying down in his bed watching TV. She was lounging in white tank top and some small tight black shorts with black thigh-high socks. His bag all but forgotten. Once he saw her he dropped it and headed towards the bed. She made space for him and waited until he was comfortable before she proceeded to lay her head on his chest and drape one leg over his. So how was your day? He asked as he drew little circles on her back with his fingertips. Boring. I have a big project for my history class, so I spent most of the time doing research. She complained. Bummer. Rissa wasn't able to hang out today either. Wonder what club she ended up joining. He said to her, not noticing her narrowing eyes at the mentioning of the other woman. Who knows? What about you? How'd you spend the day? she asked. He must have remembered something as his eyes lit up once she asked and he stood up. She watched him head back to the door and pick up a small white bag which he proceeded to hand to her. She raised an eyebrow at this but took it nonetheless. Naruto watched in anticipation as she pulled out the stuffed animal. "Well, I won it for you in a claw game." The silver-haired girl looked over the uniform-wearing bunny and let a small smile grace her face. "How much did you spend trying to win this?" He hesitated, debating on whether he should tell the truth or lie. "Not much, like 100 yen or so." He lied. She stared at him knowing damn well he was lying, but thankfully didn't call him out on it. Mostly because it was a sweet gesture. "I love it, thank you." She smiled. Naruto doubted there was anyone else on the planet that could say they've seen man-hating Maiko smile like this before. She tapped the side of the bed again, motioning him to lay down. Getting back in position, she kisses his cheek before resting her head. "You got robbed by the machine, you know," she told him, letting him know she knew he was lying. "Shut up," he grumbled in fake annoyance. The two watched TV in peace for half an hour before they felt the bed vibrate twice rapidly. Naruto grabbed his phone and raised it in front of his face. He'd gotten a notification from Rissa. The preview of the message said if he wanted to hang out. There was more, but that was all the preview showed. He didn't know that his girlfriend was also reading the message out of the corner of her eye and grit her teeth silently when she read who it was from. Suddenly an idea sprang into her mind. He could use that phone for something else. Naruto was about to reply to the message but stopped when he felt more weight applied on him. Moving the phone aside, he was treated to an amazing view of his woman mounting him. "I've had a long day and these movies on TV suck," she told him while slowly grinding her hips. Naruto smirked at her boldness and grabbed hold of her hips. "What do you suggest we do then?" She bit her lip and grabbed his phone, swiping the notification away. "Wanna make our own?" His eyes widened when he realized what she was talking about. He nodded happily and started undressing. Rissa could wait. The blonde removed his girlfriend from on top of him and shed his clothes at speeds no normal human should be able to achieve. Once he was in nothing but his boxers, he went to lay back down only to be stopped. "Sit at the edge of the bed," Maiko ordered him with a seductive look. He saw her smirk slightly at the sight of him in his boxers and felt his ego increase a little, knowing she liked what she was seeing. He was partially right, she did like it, but he didn't know she was also smirking at the fact that he'd forgotten all about Rissa. Remembering what they were doing, Naruto reached for his phone to begin but stopped when her hand landed on his and pushed it back down. "Not yet," she told him. She stood up and turned around so her back was facing him and began pulling her tank top up until it was finally off. The blonde felt blood rush south quickly and upon looking down he saw he had a large tent formed out of his boxers. He shifted in place slightly to try and get it under control but had no luck. Maiko, still not having turned to face him, grabbed the waistband of her shorts and began pulling them down, all while bending over slowly. Once the shorts and panties that she'd pulled down at the same time were around her ankles, she kicked them off to the side. She made sure to keep the thigh-high socks on, however, as she knew he liked the look. No matter how many times he's seen it, it still managed to excite him. So much so that the tent down below was starting to become a little too uncomfortable. He quickly reached down and manually shifted it up towards his waistband to keep it fastened down. He let out a small breath of relief as it was finally more bearable. Subconsciously though, he made it fight against the band when she finally turned to look at him through half-lidded eyes. "Give me the phone," she ordered. He was worried that she would stop the recording but sighed in relief when he saw that wasn't the case. She turned herself over to lay on her stomach and he saw her tap the flip camera button. She arched her back slowly, her thoroughly worked womanhood on full display for him. He saw she had the phone pointed in a way that would show her face and his body behind her. "Hurry up and get back to it," she told him. The blonde grabbed her hips and reinserted himself. He glanced at the phone screen and smiled in satisfaction when he saw Maiko's face. His eyes were kind of narrowed with only the whites being shown and she was biting her bottom lip as he pounded away. Normally he would grab a handful of hair and pull at this point, but he didn't want to mess up the shot she had going on. "Fuck Naruto," she cried, "keep going just like that." He spanked her right cheek then the other until they had a nice red tint to them and noticed she'd clench around him after every smack. After half an hour in that position, Naruto felt it coming again. "I'm pretty close," he grunted. "Pull out." He was surprised at the request but did it anyways. Pulling himself out of the woman, he took deep breaths trying to prolong his release. She turned around again on her back and handed him the phone. Taking the phone, he watched her bring her legs up and maneuver her hands behind her knees to keep herself spread open. "I'm close to, come on," she urged him. Seeing as she spread herself, he quickly sheathed himself again and began plowing into her at a fast pace. "Come on Naruto-kun for me." She talked dirty to him as he rammed in. She looked directly into the camera and continued to try and push him over the edge. "Please Naruto-kun and me. You want to, don't you?" In response the blonde began fucking her harder. MMMM. That's it, I'm not on the pill, but it's okay. I want you, she managed in between moans. The blonde felt his load coming fast. He wanted to try and hold out longer, but the words coming out of his girlfriend's mouth were really testing him. Show everyone I belong to you by pumping a kid in me. She said almost incoherently as she too felt a big orgasm coming on. Her walls were clamping around him. Come on Naruto, I'm ready for your kids. She grunted. That did it, her climax hit at the same time he exploded. He pushed in deep and began pumping rope after rope into her. He thrusted slower as he rode out his climax and watched her move a couple stray hairs out of her face. She looked at the camera and blew a kiss before letting exhaustion take her, and she laid down taking deep breaths. At this point the blonde had enough coherent thought to know that was the signal to stop recording. He tapped stop and watched it save to his camera roll. He pulled out and let himself fall on his back next to her. Maiko moved over to cuddle up next to him, resting her head on his chest. Neither said anything for a few minutes as they enjoyed the post-sex bliss. Finally, after a while, Naruto was the one who broke the silence. Hey, about the pill thing, he trailed off kind of worried. She laughed softly. We pretty much made a porn movie. It's supposed to be a little over the top. I'm still on the pill, don't worry. You're not gonna be a daddy yet. He let out a sigh of relief. He honestly wouldn't mind if one day he had a kid with her, but right now he was fine with how things were. So what brought this on? He asked, referring to her wanting to make a tape. When she didn't respond, he looked down to see her eyes closed and felt her chest lightly rising and falling, indicating she was asleep. Tapping his phone screen, he saw it was about 8:30 p.m. Might as well call it a day early. He thought to himself. The rest of the weekend was spent similar to Friday. As promised, he hung out with the guys in the afternoon and would spend the night with his girlfriend. To his disappointment, no new videos were made. He had a feeling that was a one-time deal. He tried contacting Rissa, but for some reason he couldn't get to her. Monday morning came and the blonde woke up by himself as Maiko couldn't spend the night due to having a paper to write which she'd put off. Luckily for him, the school day went by relatively quickly as the concepts they went over were easy enough for him to breeze through. As he was leaving the classroom, a voice called out to him from his left. Yo, it was Shingo, though the main thing that caught his attention was the fact that he was in his normal school uniform as opposed to the prison garbs he usually had on. What's up, they let you guys out? Naruto asked. The fellow blonde grinned. Yeah, we were all let out today. The president didn't look too happy, but I think it was out of her control. The chairman personally went to free us. The two bumped fists. Finally he'd be able to hang out with the guys with no time constraints. You guys wanna hang out and celebrate? Naruto offered. Sounds good, but the others won't be able to make it. They're catching up on some work they fell behind on. Naruto nodded and was somewhat impressed that despite their newfound freedom, they decided to catch up on work. Seeing as neither was busy or had things going on, they decided to meet in front of school after changing. A few minutes later they had regrouped and decided on heading to a nearby batting cage a couple blocks away. After paying the fee and heading to the designated area, the two began getting a few practice swings before actually starting. So what are your plans now that you're a free man? Naruto asked. He had to suppress a chuckle. If someone had heard them without context, they'd assume Shingo was really in prison. Honestly, I'm not sure. Shingo replied as he looked to the pitching machine. I'll probably just make sure my grades stay up and see if I can turn my image around. The rest of us aren't exactly popular with the ladies at the moment. Understatement of the century. The sound of baseballs being launched stopped their chat as both blondes swung and hit the ball. Naruto remembered the first girl he asked about the guys and the face of disgust she had when she'd looked at him. The two stayed silent until all of the balls had been pitched and the machine had to be reloaded. Before he picked them up, he checked his phone. Maiko hadn't texted him yet. Usually by now she would have. He sent her a quick message asking if she was free tonight before putting it away and getting back to batting. Yo, I bet I can hit more than you. Shingo challenged. Naruto smirked and was about to reply, but movement behind the young man caught his attention. It was Anzu across the street staring in their direction, mostly at Shingo though. The other blonde followed his gaze and saw the young woman and a smile immediately manifested. Hey, I'll be right back. Naruto watched him head over to her and talk to her for a bit before both heading back towards him. Naruto, this is Anzu. Anzu, this is Naruto, one of my friends from school. Shingo introduced. Naruto didn't know if Shingo forgot that he knew who she was or if he was just being polite, but nodded anyways. All that batting got me thirsty. I'm gonna head to the vending machine real quick. You guys want anything? He asked, getting negatives in reply. So have you told him you talked to him because you were ordered to? He asked once Shingo was out of earshot. Anzu's eyes widened and was about to say she didn't know what he was talking about but was stopped as he continued. After I saw you guys together the first time and you called someone the moment he left, I knew something was wrong. Didn't take too long to put the pieces together. He watched as she took a breath and her expression looked genuinely regretful. He doesn't know but I plan to tell him today. Just like that? Naruto asked skeptically. When Kurihara told me about the plan she described him as a mindless perv who should have been expelled. But over the next couple of days I realized he was nothing like she said. I even began to enjoy myself when we'd hang out and found myself looking forward to when we'd see each other again. I wanted to call this whole thing off after realizing he was different but she had some dirt on me so I had no choice. I'm going to come clean and hope you'll give me a chance. She confessed. He studied her for a second and knew she meant every word she said. He smiled. I'm sure if you tell him like you told me he'll look past it. He felt his phone vibrate but frowned when he saw there was no notification. You waiting on something? Anzu asked having seen the reaction. Yeah, I'm waiting on a call or text from Maiko. He explained. The girl frowned. You're talking about Shiraki, right? The vice president of the USC? He nodded. I don't think she's gonna reply anytime soon. Her and the others got sent to the prison. He must have misheard her, he knew she didn't just say what he thought he heard. I'm sorry, what? He asked the now wide-eyed young woman. Wait, you didn't know? She replied. He shook his head. If I knew, I wouldn't be here. Do you know why? From my understanding it was because they abused their power and for physically harming the boys. There could be more to it than that, but that's what I know. She said looking at the distraught teen. Naruto thought back to when he saw Shingo back at school in his regular clothes instead of his prison garb. He said Kurihara didn't look happy that they were released. They probably got sent soon after that. Wait. Naruto responded, a thought just popping into his head. Maiko had been suspended from the USC by Kurihara. Anzu nodded and greeted Shingo with a kind smile as he returned before turning back to him. Yeah, but she was still part of it for a long time. She was even partially responsible for dealing out punishments to the boys. Naruto couldn't argue with that. He still remembered how he'd witnessed her attacking the guys and Andre even became addicted to getting beat by her. Damn, looks like all of that caught up with him, but how? The chairman couldn't have launched an investigation by himself, the man was too busy looking up porn during school hours. Tell Shingo I had to go. The blonde said, already making his way towards the exit. There were still too many questions he didn't have answers to. How long would she be in there? Who was in charge of them? How did they end up getting caught now and not earlier? All these questions passed through his mind as he made his way past the school gates. He rushed through the campus until he saw the building the prison was built into in the distance and sped up. He was about to reach for the knob to head inside but was beaten to it as the door opened by itself. On the other side of the door was none other than Kate, who didn't seem surprised to see him. Uzumaki-san, I assume you're here to see Shiraki-san? She asked, tilting her head slightly. Naruto tried not to kiss his teeth in annoyance at her question. Yeah, I heard she got thrown in prison and wanted to see how she was doing. Kate smiled at him and clasped her hands in front of her. Of course, since I've been put in charge of looking over them I can definitely let you do that. Please follow me. Okay, so now he knew who was in charge, but it couldn't just be one person. As they walked down the corridors of the prison he remembered, she said she was the president of the student council. So there had to be at least 2 more people working with her. They turned a corner and Naruto saw the light emitting from the cell, along with 2 distinct voices speaking in hushed tones. They weren't loud enough for him to pick up what exactly they were saying, but he could recognize them belonging to Kurihara and Midorikawa. Sure enough, once he stood in front of the bars he saw the 3 women wearing the traditional black and white striped prison uniform. Well, not exactly traditional, from what he could see all of them had their midriffs exposed and their pants ended just barely passing the knees. If it had just been them 2, Naruto would have definitely begun taunting Kurihara, but his attention was elsewhere at the moment. Off on the other end of the table was Maiko, her head buried in her arms on the table. Looks like she was getting the silent treatment from the 2. You'd think after this long Kurihara would have gotten over whatever she'd been mad about. Maiko? He called out. The young woman's head rose up quickly at the sound of his voice. She stood up, letting him see that her top hugged her upper body very tightly. Naruto? She said as she leaned against the bars. If one were to see them, they'd think she really was in federal prison the way she hugged him through the bars. How long are you guys going to be in here for? He asked, trying to ignore Kate who was still standing next to him. Maiko shook her head and frowned at Kate. I'm not sure, the chairman didn't decide on a time. He just said he'd let us know when he's decided on a suitable time. Until then we'll be under the supervision of the student council. Naruto glanced at Kate briefly, then turned back to his girlfriend. Do you all have the same sentence? She shook her head. The chairman said I'd probably be here a little less time due to me being suspended from the group, but not by much. Naruto? The blonde in question blinked when he heard his name called from down the hall. The sound of footsteps grew louder until he could see the familiar visage of Rissa. She was still in her school uniform but now had a wooden bokken slung over her shoulder. Her eyes looked at him and then to the prisoner who was still holding onto his arms. The blue-haired woman smiled at him, and while Naruto thought nothing of it, the silver-haired woman saw it another way. Maybe to Naruto it was an innocent smile, but the moment the two women locked eyes, Maiko knew otherwise. That smile was mostly directed at her, knowing she would be able to communicate with her boyfriend anytime she wanted while she was stuck behind bars. "Rissa, you're part of the student council?" Naruto asked, sounding somewhat relieved. The blue-haired young woman nodded. "Yeah, I didn't know what to join, but then I met Kate and she told me if I could join her if I wanted to. It's been pretty nice so far, but now we're on prison duty." Before the two could continue, Kate coughed into her hand, getting their attention. "As much as I'd like to have you guys here to catch up, unfortunately I can't let you stay for too long," she told Naruto in an apologetic tone. Naruto sighed but he understood, the last thing he wanted was to end up in the pen like the guys. Who knows what they'd make him do if he was in there. "Come on, I'll walk you out," Rissa told him. Naruto took one last look at Maiko who nodded back to him before taking her seat and watching the two disappear down the hall. As the two made their way to the exit, Naruto spoke. "Rissa, I know this is a lot to ask, but can you look after Maiko while she's here? I know Kurihara and Midorikawa probably wouldn't try anything against her, but I just want to be sure." "Of course. I'll personally make sure she's taken care of," his best friend told him. Once they made it outside, the two hugged briefly before Naruto made his way back to his room. He couldn't help but feel slightly better now, almost as if a weight had been taken off his shoulders. Still, it would be weird not being able to be around Maiko for who knows how long. Part of him couldn't help but chuckle at a thought that popped into his mind. How would his mom react if he told her the only time he'd be able to see Maiko was through conjugal visits? She already thought Maiko was going to be pregnant, now they could add convict to the list. He unlocked his door and headed inside, making a beeline towards his bed. Laying there, staring up at the ceiling, he couldn't help but feel a little sad. Normally at this time he'd call Maiko, or she'd call him saying she was coming over or making some sort of plan for the day. Now here he was by himself. He must have laid in bed for about an hour as the next time he looked out the window the sun was already beginning to disappear. His stomach growled, reminding him he hadn't eaten. Patting himself down quickly, he made his way out the door and decided to head down to the nearest Lawson to get himself a quick bite. The blonde grabbed 2 pre-made bentos, a few drinks and some snacks for the night and made his way back. Part of him wanted to see what the guys were doing, but he decided he'd hang out with them tomorrow. There wasn't much they could do at this time anyway. Naruto ended up watching a few episodes of a show on TV and headed to the bathroom. As he entered, he pulled his phone out, ready to browse through countless pointless pictures on the internet when his eyes lit up as he remembered something. Opening up his photo app, which he'd actually locked behind a 6-digit passcode, he looked for a certain video he and his girl had made and smiled to himself. What a woman, even when she wasn't here she still had a way to take care of him. It was kind of weird seeing himself as the star of the video, but it still got the job done. He'd definitely have to see if Maiko would be willing to make another video. In his opinion, this was better than most videos he usually looked up. After taking care of business, he made his way back to bed, ready to end the day. The next day arrived quickly. Word of the girl's imprisonment had spread like wildfire. He'd been given some pity glances from some of the girls who knew him, wondering what he was feeling with his girlfriend behind bars. He'd started to question everyone's sanity. They really spoke to him like she'd be held there for years. When lunchtime came around, Naruto got his food and looked around the cafeteria, trying to find where the guys were sitting. It wasn't hard to find them, even though they'd been released they still weren't too well liked by the female community. Though from what he could see, Kayashi and Shingo were doing alright. Shingo was being fed by Anzu, and Kayashi was being fed by Kurihara's younger sister. Seeing her reminded him of the incident in the bathroom stall a while back. Even after all this time he still couldn't believe it, Kayashi really had Midorikawa on her knees on the bathroom floor while he was in the prison. I had forgotten Kayashi had crazy game. He thought to himself as he made his way over to their table. Dude had a girl blowing him while in prison, and now he had the underground student council president's sister feeding him. He didn't know how he pulled that off. As he made his way over to their table, the blonde heard a commotion on the other side of the cafeteria. He was once again weirded out by that boy Andre who was being surrounded by girls. That in and of itself wasn't the problem, it was the fact that the girls were all taking turns punching him in the gut and he seemed to be reveling in the abuse. The man had a smile on his face, as well as a bit of a rosy tint on his cheeks, as one of the girls began to kick him. "I'm telling you guys, that boy ain't right," Naruto said as he sat down with them. First he was having withdrawal symptoms because Maiko wouldn't abuse him, and now he's letting the girls beat his ass. Kayashi, Kikuto, and Shingo gave him a small wave as a greeting and nodded in agreement with him. Yeah, he's a little strange, but at least he's not hurting anyone. Kayashi said, defending his friend. Shingo took a bite of the food offered to him by Anzu, still lightly blushing as he did so and answered, he's better now than when we were locked up, that's for sure. Deciding to steer the conversation away from the large student, Naruto took a bite of his food and spoke again. So how are you guys enjoying your freedom? Kayashi smiled and stretched his arms. It feels a little strange but in a good way. Eating lunch with everyone here as opposed to in a cell is much better. He said. Since Naruto had gotten there, the boy's smile had seemingly been glued to his face. I bet. What about you, Gakudo? How are you holding up? Nice haircut by the way. Gakudo, who now sported short hair with a crisp lineup, shot him a thumbs up. Better than expected. Naruto Dono, I've actually made a friend despite my sacrifice. He said, referring to the time when he shit himself to help his buddy make his excuse believable. Naruto was pleasantly surprised. He was sure after something like that he'd be ridiculed, but here he was making friends after only being out for a day. He loved to see it. Speaking of friends, isn't there one more of you? The guy who always seems to be on death's door but no one ever seems to mention it. Naruto asked, referring to Joe. The three boys blinked once or twice before they realized who he was talking about. Oh, you mean Joe? We don't really know. He's been acting strange since we got out of the prison, but I'm sure he's okay. Replied Kayashi. Naruto was going to point out that coughing blood every few minutes was most definitely not okay, but stopped himself. No one seemed to be concerned with it, so why bother? As he was mid-bite of his food, his phone vibrated in his pocket. Part of him immediately thought of his silver-haired beauty, but that thought went out the window instantly. Unless Kate allowed her to keep her phone in there, which he doubted, it would have to be someone else. Finishing his bite, he pulled the device out to find he'd gotten a message from Rissa asking if he wanted to hang out after school. She followed up with another text saying Maiko was doing alright if it helped make him feel better. In truth it did, and because of that he agreed. Part of him felt a little strange knowing that he was going to go enjoy himself while his girl was in jail, but if she was doing okay, he could at least take his mind off it for a while. While he was enjoying his lunch, over at the other end of the school, in one of the rooms near the prison, the student council was having a meeting. Kate sat behind what used to be Kurihara's office with a satisfied smile on her face. She leaned back in her chair and stretched her arms over her head. See, I told you it would work out. She told Rissa, who still had her bakken over her shoulder. The blue-haired young woman smiled at her phone as she sent a message and nodded at the president. It went just as you said. You seem happy, you have plans? Kate asked in a knowing tone as she stood up and made her way out of the room. The other two members of the student council followed close behind her. I do. Rissa responded just as they were passing by the prison cell. Maiko was once again isolated off to one side, seemingly asleep with her head buried in her arms, while the other two were talking amongst themselves. I'm hanging out with Naruto after school today. Maiko's head immediately snapped up, her face morphing into a frown at the less busty blue-haired woman. What? She asked. It was clear to anyone except Naruto that the two women didn't exactly consider each other friends. Hearing that her boyfriend was going to be hanging out with her, knowing the woman was after him made her furious. Rissa stopped her stride to stare at her competition but didn't let any emotion appear on her face. I'm going to hang out with Naruto after school today. If you need anything feel free to ask either one of my friends. Her nonchalant tone only served to make the former vice president angrier, much to Kate's amusement. Well, Kate sang as she stared at the former wardens, I'll also be busy today, so be sure to stay productive. I'll come back to check on you periodically, so behave yourselves. She taunted as the three girls made their way out of the room. A few hours later. The school day had finally ended and Naruto had made a beeline to his room. He didn't know what Rissa wanted to do today, so he quickly changed into some casual street clothes and made his way to where they'd agreed to meet. He didn't have to wait for long as she finally appeared in between the crowd of girls heading out into the city for the day. His eyes did widen marginally when he took in her appearance. Usually she wore clothes that gave her a somewhat tomboyish look, but she'd switched it up this time. Rissa was wearing a sundress of all things along with some flats. Naruto had to forcibly stop his jaw from unhinging slightly, this was not the same person he was expecting. She stood in front of him, a pleased expression on her face. Well, what do you think? She asked, doing an awkward twirl like Kate had instructed her to do. You look great actually, really good. I'm just wondering why the change in wardrobe. He responded honestly. I thought I'd try something new for a change. Now come on, let's go. She said, leading the way. While Rissa wasn't the most well-equipped compared to Maiko, he still couldn't help but take a glance downward when she was in front of him. He shook his head and quickly caught up to her, making sure to stay by her side. Unknown to him, Rissa had been hoping he would like what he saw. Now that Maiko was out of the way, she could try and get his attention on her and make a move. She might have missed out on him when they were at the same school once, but she'd be damned if she didn't try now. What if Naruto was imprisoned in high school DxD? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.